And it begins.
So it begins. Hello, and welcome, future people watching in the future. But like I was saying, I'm gonna use my Ryan the Frostman game because obviously I'm not going to show you guys I'm not going to prep a map that I'm going to use for our game because you guys are staring at me. And my Ryan Frostman game will be coming up next Sunday, and there's a couple maps I wanted to make. Got my Ryan the Frostman book right here. Let's see. Pay no attention to that map. That's Sunblight. That's where they are right now. They're in the Sunblight fortress. For anyone who knows enough about Rime of the Frostmaiden. Get my screen over to this real quick. So, gentlemen, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to voice them at any time. What would you like to see first? How I make sheets?
I would say, or if anyone wants having comments that watching this, just drop it down in the comment section.
Yes, make sure you. What's a lot of YouTubers say? Make sure you like and subscribe.
Oh, please.
But do you guys want to see me do a map, or you want me to do a sheet first, or a character sheet?
Let's do a map first.
You want to see the map? All right. All right. Let's see. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Looking for a specific section in the book. I'm going to spoilers for anyone who is planning to play or is in the middle of a Ryan Frostman game at this moment, who may be watching right now. There it is. I want to prep the Yarlmoot map. It's one of the random little areas your players can run to in the second chapter. Yarlmoot is like this place where like frost giant jarls and in ancient times would go and like meet with one another for like moots, meetings. For those of you who don't understand the terminology, you probably recognize the word. I think its root language is from your country.
Yeah, repeat that again.
Yarlmoot, because you're Swedish, I believe. Your culture is where like that term originated from, the word moot for like meeting.
Maybe.
Yeah, like Sweden, Scandinavia, Norwegia. A lot of those were like old Viking territories back in the day.
Yeah.
But we're going to create a new page. I don't know why it spawned over there, but okay. I have a certain default set, one of which is the lines are yellow and the background is black because it helps me measure things out. But we come over here, you can go to page details. I was having by 50 by 50 as a default, which I can actually show you how you do that real quick. Now I'm thinking about it. Do you set like page defaults? No, you need to exit the game. Not go to the main thing. You essentially go to tools, I think. No. Now you go to the games themselves. Not launch the game. You go to the game itself. Here it is, settings. Game settings. And you can go in here and you can change various settings, like what kind of sheet it uses. Here's where the default setting is, such as roll quarries, always roll at advantage. Whisper toggles to GM. I set it to toggle so you can toggle it on and off. Auto roll damage and crit. Fuck. No, it's one of the cats. Here it is. Game default settings. You can set defaults to like what your page defaults are, and token defaults, such as whether or not that you want your players to be able to see them or edit them and stuff like that. And then you can also set defaults to dynamic lighting. I usually have it defaulted to where all tokens I create already default to have vision, but I usually don't have the default dynamic lighting on, mostly because when I'm making maps, unless there is a light source on the map, it makes everything kind of semi-grayed out and kind of dark. Not so dark I can't see, but it's a little bit harder to make the map when I'm essentially looking in a dimly lit room that shouldn't be dimly lit to me because the room doesn't exist yet. But yeah, that's how you can do all of that for your defaults. Yes, leave page, please. But I usually always set dynamic lighting barriers restrict movement. I usually turn that on. That's not a default I can set for some reason, so I have to always manually do that one. And like I said, I usually leave dynamic lighting off until I'm actually doing the dynamic lighting, not when I'm doing the actual map itself. So save that. And here we got my little folder here. I have lots of images. If I didn't already have an image, then I would go over here and I would go to like Google right here and gain an image. So like say if I wanted to like, let's see, D&D battle map. Let's say we're going to do, I need one for a city. I'll go city. And then I would hit enter, go to images here. And then I would look through these images until I found one that I liked. Some of these images I already do have, like this one and this one. I already have those in my folder. And then I would come over here and go to open image in new tab. So it's this image, and then I would go to like save as, and I would save it into one of my folders. But because I knew at the time when I was prepping for running Rime of the Frost Maiden, I had already gotten several of the maps out of the book, including Yarmut. Here we are. This is the map for that. 1 square equals 10 feet. Good to know. Which means I'm going to need to make this actually much larger than anticipated. Because I need each one of those squares to be 5 feet, not 10 feet. So each of those squares is going to have 4 squares in it, which isn't that difficult. Once you get it lined up, it's just a matter of doubling its size. And then kind of finagling it with a little bit to like get the square grid lines to realign just a little bit. But just take it and I drag and just drop it straight into Roll20. Upload. Boop, 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 doo. Sometimes it likes to take its sweet time. Usually when I'm doing this, I'll have like music off to the side playing, or I'll be watching something like sometimes our own streamed games. Stuff of that nature. All right. Now that we got it in here, it's a little big. Zoom out some. Usually try and put it around the center. Put it into your map layer. Probably need to make this a lot bigger. I have a default to 50, but usually when I'm doing map prep, I usually put it to like 80 by 80, so I have lots of room to work with. Oh, gotta go to the map layer. You know, they use this tool to change what layer you're in, either map, objects, GM layer, dynamic lighting, etc. Now we're in the map layer. I can move it around. And then usually you want to set it as, you want to right click on it and go into advance here and set it as a drawing. That way it doesn't snap to the grid anymore. And then you zoom in some so I can see. And we just line it up with the grid. Now, obviously, it will not be perfectly aligned because we haven't changed its size yet since we dropped it in, but now we got it in there. And then we just come over here to one side. There it is. Grab this little thing, and then we just drag it along. Try and get it to line up properly. Let's see. Yeah, the image needs to be bigger. And kind of line it up a little bit. Usually it's the best way to do is you pick like a line to line it up with, and then you move over to the other side, and then you drag it along. You pick a specific line to line it up with, then you line it up to that line, and you come back over to the other side. And depending on, oops, that was the wrong button. And depending on how much of a stubborn ass the image wants to be, depends on how long this takes. It can take anywhere between a few minutes to several grueling hours of annoyance. Some images that people have drawn that I've used in my D&D games have them specifically drawn to a specific design to allow to be utilized for D&D's like 5 foot square thing. They watch it like the image in and of itself is designed that way. Let's see. Should I line it up to the way the grid is, or try expanding it? Now it might be easier to try and do it with do the 4 square one. Yeah. Ooh, see, like right here, this line and this line are almost lined up correctly. Shift it a little bit. Push it down a little. Shift it a little bit more. Yeah, usually
admittedly, you're a lot more patient than I am when I make maps.
Well, I try to make sure the image lines with the grid.
Yeah, I probably should do that for my current game.
I mean, it would certainly be helpful for your players. That way, they know exactly where their character is standing. But this is why I try to only use images that have grid lines already on it, so I can just take it and just align it to the grid that exists in Roll20. And then once I'm done doing that, I just erase Roll20's grid and just use either the grid that's already on the game map, or I just change it to a dark black and just leave it alone. It depends on like how hard it is to see the grid on the map. I'll come over here, and as you go back and forth, and, you'll eventually start dialing it more and more in until you get it aligned correctly. Looks like our vertical lines here are good, so let's go ahead and work on our horizontal ones. Let's see. I kind of bring this out to here. That's going to need to be a lot better. Yep. Almost. Yep. Yep, there we go. Let's come up here to the top. And there we go. This image was quite easy because it was already designed. It's the same image right out of the book. So it's already kind of lends itself to it. The only complication with this particular image is that each square was 10 feet instead of 5. So while it looks like there's one square here, it's actually 4 squares. So obviously for this particular map, I have to leave Roll20's grid there. Otherwise, you won't see, half the grid squares that exist there. And I just kind of take a moment to look over it a little bit, make sure it all lines up correctly, and then once I've determined it does, usually, all things dependent. Yeah, sometimes what I'll do is I like to see if it will match up correctly if it's not a drawing. But I always bring it up to the top left corner here, like so. Out of curiosity, let's see. No, it isn't. That's fine. So I just switch that back to a drawing. I want to see if I could, if aligning the image to the grid or snapping the image to the grid would cause it to stay aligned with it. It does not. Because there are extra details on this map that throw off, like the actual size dimensions of the specific image itself is not the same dimensions as the grid itself, if that makes sense. Because, it's got these little extra superfluous border things here that are not part of the actual grid, the gridded image. There it is. Sometimes it's hard to find the little anchor points for me to grab and drag, as I have poor vision. I just resize all this. And as to your comment earlier about I'm a little picky, yeah, I am quite OCD picky and a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. I want it to look nice and be fun to play on. But yeah, I do spend a lot of time doing a lot more work than most people realize. Like I will spend like several minutes to hours on a map to make it look good and cool to play on, even though my players will probably only be on it for maybe 30 minutes at most. But they'll at least think it looks cool for those 30 minutes, or at least I hope. All right. And then for my personal preference, what I usually do is, without changing the size, I like to leave a little bit of extra border space between the image and the rest of the map. So I like to do it like that. And change it back to a drawing. That way I won't snap the grid. I can just realign it just a little bit. Sometimes it's a little hard to get very specific, minute, precise movements because I use a mouse. I'm not a computer graphics artist or anything like that, so I don't have all the fancy little like electronic digital pin drawer device or whatever that a lot of those people have.
Please, I have digital pen drawer like $50 behind me.
Yeah. So I don't. Sometimes I have to try multiple times to get in the exact spot, and sometimes if I'm not careful, my hand will sometimes start to cramp because I'm holding the mouse, but I got like my finger on the table and my thumb on the other side of it, and I'm doing like this to try and get it to move just right. So I'm holding it like with my hand out to the side here. So if it was like this, I'm doing like this. This is the table, and I'm like
Yeah.
And sometimes after doing that for several hours, my hand will start to cramp. But usually what I do in that case, if it's like, okay, I've done alignment of like 18 images in the last 2 hours. Let's do something that doesn't involve cramping my hand, and then I'll start making a character sheet, which is a lot more typing than it is very precise mouse movements. But yeah, so like I said, I like to bring it out to here, so I have this little empty border space to the side. You guys almost never see this empty border space because usually I put dynamic lighting barriers around the image itself, so you just never see it. And usually I'll have a note or some kind of annotation off to the side, like, hey, don't forget the trap is going to murder all of them if they don't check for traps, or I'll have what I call a master token off to the side. So if it's like, oh, you're going to fight 15 goblins in here, well, I'm not going to roll initiative for each token of the 15 goblins. I'll have one goblin token off to the side here, and that will be the one I have roll initiative. That's the one in the initiative tracker. So that as you guys kill the other 15 goblins, I just go delete, delete, delete. Oh, he's dead, delete. Because if you delete the token that's in the initiative tracker, it moves it from the tracker. So I have a master token whose only purpose is to be the token in the initiative tracker, not to actually be a token that fights. Sometimes you guys may have noticed it because sometimes I don't always have a border, or I'll realize, ooh, I should have made a master token ahead of time, and I'll like copy and paste one of the tokens real quick, and I'll put them off the side. Sometimes I'll say like, pay no attention to this guy; he's my master token. And I'll just set him off to the side. So sometimes you guys will see that, and I'll be like, hey, he's not part of the combat, so don't worry about him. He doesn't exist. He is a impartial observer. But you'll notice, like, I got all this empty space out here and shit. Well, I come here and I go to width, and let's drop it down to 60 by 60. And I try and I start walking it in to close up some of the space. So I want 2 more squares removed from the bottom there. So we'll make this 58. That way I usually like to have the outer border section about 3 squares out. That's usually more than enough room for me to put something there if I need it. And come over here to the width. Let's see. Let's drop you down to 40. Okay, that's too far. I'll walk it back out. Let's say 45. 44. There we go. And there we go. Now I don't have all that extra bit. Because the larger it is in Roll20, the longer it will take to load. So I try to minimize it as much as I can when I can. And now the map is essentially done. I may come back at later points to add what I call dungeon dressing, which is, because a lot of maps don't have furniture or details in it. They'll just have a room, and the book will be like, the adventure will be like, in this room there's a square table with 4 chairs, and arranged in the corner there's a chest that has blah 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 blah. And it'll be like, well, the room just looks like a big empty 4x5 square room. Well, I have tokens in here for that, object tokens. Such as furniture. We got, chairs with tables of varying different kinds, depending on what I want. So like ones for like, barrels and like a pirate bar. Yeah, or like a card table. Or if it's like a war room, I got a table with like maps and weapons on it. I got a brazier, I got a bookshelf, stuff like that. And I'll just click and drag these into the as needed, depending on what I need. Yeah, I got like other stuff like a ladder, a set of stairs, wood and stone, parchment. There have been times where I've literally taken a picture of a piece of parchment, shrink it down to about like that big to make it look like there's a bunch of papers on the desk. Because it was like, there's papers on the desk. I want them to be in the map too. So when the players walk in, they're like, hey, there's a bunch of papers on that desk. Can I look through the papers? And I'm like, sure. I also got, ships, rowboats, dog sleds, barrels, chests of different kinds, a coffin, sarcophagus, a keg. I also have corpses of varying different states of decay, depending on if I need to put a bunch of bodies in a room. Like, there's one map where it was like, this room is strewn with skeletons. And I was like, oh, well, let me get an image of a skeleton, and then I just copy and pasted that like 100 times. And just made piles of them. Or if they were like full skeletons. I also have one, let's see. Oh yeah, I also have just a little bone pile. For if they were more piled up and strewn about. Like recently, I used this image in a Quaggoth den. Quaggoths are these like white-furred humanoid Underdark creatures. Because they had been eating people, and the bones were strewn about. Actually, well, let me tell you that. I don't know if they were eating people, but they were eating creatures that had bones everywhere. So I also have an Iron Maiden. On that Sunblight map, there's a torture room that has Iron Maidens in it, and they're actually part of the stats. Are actually statted to like if you shove someone in there and you close it on them, they'll take damage every round. So I have one that's open, and I have the exact same image that's open, and then the one that's closed. I made what's called the multi-sided shifting token, so that when it's like, oh, I close it, I can just go click, and then swap the image out on the map. Which I'll show you guys how to do shifting tokens soon enough. But yeah, you get my point though. Like I got like curtains, like I got all kinds of shit. I've just been accumulating things. Some of them are just literally just terrain pictures. Like this is canvas. This is literally a image of a canvas super zoomed in, to where it's like, oh, I want this object to look like it's covered by a canvas sheet. So I literally will take a canvas sheet like this and then put that over top of it. And when you guys go, oh, wait, is there something underneath this canvas? I'm like, yeah, it looks like there's some boxes, whatever. Can I remove the canvas? Sure. And then I'll go into the map layer and I'll literally click on the image of the canvas sheet and I'll move it to the side. And then I'll actually have like other stuff underneath it. Like there's one of the Rime of the Frostbane maps is, or one of the things I did in my Rime of the Frostbane game was that there was this person who had this like dog sled that had like a bunch of cargo on it, and one of them was a corpse. It was a corpse of some criminal that they had killed, and they were going to go turn in for the bounty. But obviously, they didn't just have them laying out in the open. They were actually underneath the canvas sheet. So I had like a couple of crates and a chest next to them, and then I put the body. I kind of like shrunk it down to like fit, because you got to make it proportional to the object, onto the thing. And then I took the canvas sheet and I just covered over top that image, so that when they went, oh, I want to check what's under this canvas, and when I move the canvas, the body will be there. They're like, whoa, there's a corpse underneath the canvas sheet. And I'm like, yes, there was. You know, the ultimate goal is that I don't have to tell you what you see, because it's already there for you to see it. So I don't have to tell you, oh, you found a body under the canvas sheet. I literally pulled the fucking sheet aside and it's like, whoa, shit, there's a body under here. I also have blood splatter. I know, sound crazy. But yeah, I have different like patterns of blood splatter if I wanted to make it look like someone was murdered.
Yeah, probably
Yeah, that's what I would do if I had dungeon dressing.
Probably should do that next time I set you up for traps.
Do what now?
I'll probably should do that next time I set you up for like traps and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. If there was like a room that had like a spike trap that came out of the wall or something like that, and you wanted to make it look like it was like someone had died there recently, because those blood splatters show like fresh blood. That's because that's bright red and it hasn't congealed yet, or most of it hasn't congealed yet. But like if it was like, oh, you come up to a thing and it looks like there's a body on the floor with a pool of blood underneath it. It's like, that's really suspicious, just in the middle of this hallway. What does it look like? Oh, it looks like it's got some puncture wounds in it. It's like, does the wall have holes in it? I don't know. An investigation check? I could do like that.
Like, not that I could pull up any traps anymore, because even someone I played with just recently realize I'm a trapaholic when it comes to dungeons.
Yeah, I conversely, I don't typically add traps myself, as I don't normally. One, I don't think about it very often. Usually, if the traps exist, it's because it's a pre-written adventure. Your guys are not a pre-written adventure. You guys is a homebrewed one. That being said, you guys technically have a retainer who's a rogue, but none of you are playing a rogue. But every once in a while, I will put a trap. But it's one of those things. When it comes to traps, I think of a few things. When it comes to traps, it's logic and what's the foot traffic. Like if it's a main door in a main section that's supposed to have a lot of frequent foot traffic, like the cafeteria door in the middle of a thieves guild hideout. No, that door's not going to be trapped, because like 2,000 people are coming and going through that door every fucking goddamn day. That would be ridiculous. Now, a chest in the middle of the treasure room, most likely that will be trapped. or the door to the treasury room, where like only 1 or 2 people go to all the time. Those rooms will be trapped. But like the cafeteria and door room, no, that'd be silly. Because you also got to think like, if I'm the thief that lives in the guild hall of the Thieves Guild, I have to go through that door all the time. What happens the day I don't remember? Oh right, I gotta fucking pull this pin on the corner of the door, or I get skewered. I'm too worried about thinking about, man, I heard they were making eggs this morning, and I really like me some eggs. And I open the door. Oh god, I'm dead. People got to use that damn door. What kind of asshole's gonna put a trap on a door that gets used all the time? That's a douchey person. That's a douchey trap master. But with the grids done, I usually come over here and I just go over here and I change the color from yellow to black, which also makes the grid disappear to the black background on the borders here. And I'll swap back to objects. We'll zoom in back to 100. And there we go. That is a map. I will probably cover that. Let's see. Let me check here. Oh, wait. Actually, hold on. Let me check in here first. Because all of the images that you upload into Roll20 get saved in your art library here. And I made little folders. So that to save up on room, I try not to upload the same image multiple times. Because it counts, even if it's the same image, that every single time you upload it, it counts as its own separate image. So, like, I got terrain pieces like Ocean, which I use for you guys and a lot of your maps a lot. Snow I use for the Roll20 frostbiting game a lot. And when I have a map in here that I no longer use or need to use, I usually will remove it from the art library, which puts it down here. And then I'll delete it. That reminds me. Yeah. And then I'll take these images and I'll put them into these folders later. Let's see. Cobblestone. No, I don't want cobblestone. Brass ocean. Okay, the one I want isn't
better than me. I usually use the folders, the folder for players and stuff like that. So I keep track to the players, the monsters, and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, this is just the art images. The actual sheets are on the journal section. That's what these are. Yeah, like this one, the Dwergar. Because they're fighting a lot of Dwergar now.
Yeah.
I have those placed out into categories. NPCs, monsters, animals, etc. Oh. Yeah, I need to finish her sheet at some point. But like I was saying, the sheet that I have what's called terrain tiles. Nope, that's monsters. DD battle maps. Nope, sorry. No, maybe it was on the battle maps. There it is, terrain tiles, which are literally just pictures of terrain. Stone wall, snow. This is what did I write? Stone floor. Little tar pits. Garbage, which I used on you guys recently. I needed an image of a pile of garbage, like a big garbage pile, for the Odiux. Sand. This is cobblestone, flagstones. Mountain rock, yeah, this one. Yeah. I'll just take this and I'll drop it in here. And I'll just use it to cover this up. And depending on how picky I want to be, depends on whether or not I'll use it as just one big image like so. Or if I want its like texture striations and whatnot to kind of match more of the similar scaling of that. I might make it smaller like this, so it kind of matches up with the overall size of it, and then I'll like copy and paste it multiple times, kind of like this, because this will look different than, say, if we did it like this. If I put these up side by side, they'll look differently on the map. And it usually depends on how much that matters. Because once the image is in, the image is in. So I don't have to worry about, like, making it, copying and pasting it multiple times, because it ain't going to take up more memory space regardless. Okay. Then I'll just take this and I'll just push it to the map layer. Boom. So now we don't have that big, your moot, 1 square equals 10 feet thing, because you don't need to know that. Because as far as I know, every square is 5 feet. That's what matters. And that is essentially a map for the dynamic lighting. Although, should I? Yeah. One of the things about this particular map is that what the part of the map that players will see when they get here is these giant stone chairs. These are big stone chairs, because these are like I said, this is a meeting place for like the different jarls or the leaders. That's what a jarl is. It's a leader. It's an elder or a person of importance in a tribe or clan or whatever terminology one wants to use. That's what frost giants refer to their leaders of their different frost giant tribes or clans, and they call them jarls. And that's spelled with a J, but it's not pronounced with a J. Those of you who speak the languages that comes from know that, but those of my more English friends probably don't. But like, this is all they see. They would see these big stone chairs or thrones or whatever you want to call it up on like a hill or whatever. Because the way the thing about Yarmut is that it's a they hear about it in like at certain times of the year or on like certain days of the night. I forgot. I'll have to actually read to see. Is like the ghost of the former jarls that sit in these chairs show up. So it's kind of like they got a piece of artwork for it right here in the book of one of the frost giant jarls ghost appearing. And when they get there, they gotta the frost giant jarl, the head honcho one, because there's 7 of them. The one that sits in this chair right here will test them and have them like fight a couple of things. And if they pass, his trial of combat and strength and whatnot, a secret entrance opens up in his throne or in his chair that leads down into this area where they can get some cool treasure and loot. So obviously, they don't see this. And if I do my dynamic lighting like I normally do, which I'll show you in a moment, from the player perspective, they'll have this big room-shaped looking thing just here, mysteriously. Because I can't make it to where this looks like floor and also have it dynamic lighting. So what I would probably do...
I have to know for viewers that are watching on YouTube that dynamic lighting is a paid feature, so...
Yes, you have to be, you have to have a
pro,
you have to be essentially
we both have pro.
So what I will do instead is this. And what I'll do is I'll make 2 images of this same map. One for them outside, and then one for the inside, because I don't want to give away the fact of like, oh hey, by the way, there's there's a thing here that you can't see. You know, I want that to be kind of part of the surprise. And so we'll just cover all this up. Probably should have made a duplication of this before I start putting all it down. There you go. So to kind of just hide this, you know, nothing to see here, folks. You know, go on about your day. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We'll just cover all this up. I mean, any player that's not a complete moron would recognize, hey, that terrain doesn't match the terrain that's on the map. And I'd be like, yes, you are correct. Most people won't care enough to worry about it. And the ones that do immediately recognize, like, hey, that doesn't, that doesn't look the same as the rest of the terrain on this map, I'll be like, most of them will, like, not worry about it. People like you guys, Daniel, Kiri, and so forth, most players will just ignore that for verisimilitude. Most of my players trust me to be like, hey, that looks strangely not part of the map. I'm like, yes, and there's a good reason for that, but don't worry about the reasons. They'll be like, okay. And then I'll have this map to do the dynamic lighting for them just outside. Then this other map over here, or when they're down inside. That way I don't have the 3 rooms in a hallway shaped dark black shape just sitting here in the bottom part of the map mysteriously and super obviously. And so they could also feel free to come to this side of the stone thrones or up here. Same reason why I covered that stuff, so that it's, as far as they see, is a large hill with some stone seats on it. And then is pretty much as it is for dynamic lighting. That being said, I will, however, do some. We go over the dynamic lighting thing. This is what I'm sure most of you guys probably haven't used a lot and need the most explanation. What you do is essentially go to the dynamic lighting layer and you have to draw lines. And these are light barriers. They will block line of sight or light sources. Essentially, you make them as walls. Go over here to the polygon draw shape, polygon line. You pick a color. I like to use magenta for my walls because it's bright, pink, and easy to see. And then you just zoom in, scroll up. If you hold down the control key and you scroll... Oh, sorry. That's the wrong one. Control lets you scroll in and out using the mouse wheel. Shift, hold down and shift, and using the mouse wheel lets you go left and right. When you go to shift, it goes up and down. Hold down, shift, left and right. Because when I have this tool selected, I can't right-click and drag. I need to have the select and move for that. And because I'm lazy and stubborn and don't want to have to come over here and change between this tool and that tool constantly, one day I figured it out that if I hold down the shift key, I can do this. So I can go click, click, click. And I discovered it by accident because I also knew that if you hold down the shift key and you click, it will automatically put it into the grid. It will snap it to the grid like so, see? Oh, it's out of control. Sorry. I get bored easily, and this is another reason why sometimes it takes a little bit longer to do some maps, because I become very amused easily. But if you don't have the shift key, then you can click it anywhere. So this is great if you don't have images that don't align to the grid perfectly. But yeah, I take it, hold down the shift key, shift click, scroll, shift click, unshift scroll, shift click, click, and click. That's usually what I do. Another thing about the polygon line is that when you want to break the lines up, like say I wanted to do this and then this, and like say there's like a window right here, if you right click, it will let that stay so that when you do this, it won't keep following your it won't keep trying to connect things. Because obviously if there's a window right here, I don't want to put a wall there because then you can't see through a window that you should be able to see through. So you just as you're doing it, if you don't want it to connect your two anchor points, you just right click to separate it, and then you can make another anchor point and then continue. Now, like I said, this map is pretty much done. If I could just leave it like this, and it'd be fine. But I had to add extra details. Because, based on the image, these are big-ass fucking chairs. Frost giants sit in these things. Frost giants could be anywhere between, 12 or 15 feet fucking tall. They're huge. Both metaphorically and in their actual size category in the game. They are huge size. They're a 3x3 grid monster. So you shouldn't be able to see past these. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to actually make it where you can't see past these chairs. I'm going to come in here. I'm not going to use shift. Because I don't want to go along the border edges of the chair. Because of the reasons that I want you to still be able to tell it's a chair. Because if I go along, say I do this, just for a quick thing here. Do like this, from your point of view, you wouldn't really be able to tell what the fuck that is because you can't see the detail that should be there. But I still want it to block line of sight. I don't want to hide the image. I just want to make it block line of sight. So instead, I'll go in about the middle of it here. Make a line there. Actually, no. I should have done it this way. That way it can all be one solid piece. And there we go. And that's generally good enough right there because that means that, if you're on this side of it or this side of it or this side of it, you can't see to the other side, which it's that large, it should be like that. And then I'll just do that to all the other ones. I'll come over here. And for this particular object, due to the way it is, it doesn't have to be super precise and fancy. It's just got to get the point across that you can't see past it. It's not transparent. Yeah. And this is some of those details that I add in for a combination of my own personal desire for verisimilitude, and because I think it makes the map look neater. Because most people, you ask them, they'll be like, "Do you really need that?" And they'll probably be like, "No." But if it's there, it makes it feel cooler. Like in a video game, when you play it, and they add that extra little audio clip to make that rattling metal against metal sound of whenever you move, because your character is wearing heavy plate mail, and so it goes ka-ching, 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 ka-ching as you move. Do you absolutely need that to be in the game? No. But you appreciate the tiny details that somebody took to add into there, because it adds to the immersion, to the verisimilitude. For those of you wondering, verisimilitude means the belief that the world is real. Yes, we're a bunch of people. We're all playing D&D, and we're all staring at an image of a table. We're not actually sitting at, or we're not actually marching across the icy tundra. But with verisimilitude, I try to convince you that the world is real and to believe it to be a real world and that it operates like a real world. So, like, you know, you talk to this guy one day, the next day you see him, like, he wasn't just standing there the whole time waiting for you to come back and talk to him. Like, he was doing his own shit. He may not even be there. He may have, you know, a new girlfriend that day, the next time you see him. You know, the world continues on and operates as if it was a real world. But now this map is pretty much done. Later on, I'll probably add things like, I'll probably add the monsters that are supposed to be here, but generally when I'm making the map, I worry about the monsters after I got the map fully done. And I don't think there's any light sources. No, I don't believe so. Yeah. Now as for here, because this part no longer matters, I won't worry about doing any dynamic lighting for that one. So I'll essentially have the player start right here at the staircase. And we'll do the exact same thing as we did before. Zoom in a little bit. First, let's actually see if the image fully, if the walls line up with the grid, because sometimes the walls don't line with the grid. Oh yeah, this lines with the grid. This will be real fast. Well, almost. When it doesn't line up with the grid, I like to zoom really deep in there to make sure I get it perfectly aligned, because I don't like to fuck up with the walls, because that's just me. And these particular lines aren't matching up with the grid because they're crooked. They're diagonal.
As a little tip, if you actually want to see if your dynamic ain't actually working, you just go to this player, just go to this gear icon, and click re-enter as player.
Oh, what was that about re-entering this player?
No, but just to make sure your dynamic plan is working for the player's point of view.
So don't want to follow along that. Yeah. Sometimes I gotta do like a lot of mini things, especially if there's like a curve. I gotta kind of like do like this because I can only make lines. I can't make, or rather, I can only make straight lines using this tool, and this is really the only tool we got. So we just come along here, and I just kind of like click like 50 million times along this fucking wall like this to kind of create this like lumpy curve. It looks kind of ugly with the line, but most players won't notice it because one, they won't see the line itself; they'll just see where their vision doesn't go. And plus, most players are too busy staring at the. I think these are like barrels or baskets. No, these are braziers. Yeah. Because part of like, well, there's like a thing in here for like a puzzle of like to gain access to one of the big treasure areas in this particular map. You gotta like put certain objects and set them on fire inside each of these little like braziers. Like it's the movie Fifth Element. You know, you gotta put this thing on this other thing, and then et cetera, et cetera. I think like one of them was like you need to put like a dead body on one or some kind of like corpse of some kind, and then like another one was like an arrowhead. Another one was like you gotta like tribute to like some like fucking wind or air or whatever. Essentially just blow on it. You just go and that counts for that one. It was something like that. One required like blood, so you just gotta drip a couple drops of blood onto it and you're good. Normally I don't make the entire image, or sorry, the entire wall line as one solid piece, but for a map like this, it's not too bad. And the main reason is because if I make a mistake and have to fix it, I have to delete all of it because it's all connected. I can't like erase just part of the line that I fucked up on. I have to erase all of it. And so on like an image like this, it's really small. It's not a big deal. Most of it, I can align it to the grid by just shift clicking because it will automatically, when I click, it will automatically put it in the middle of the grid intersection. But for like a map that's like way larger, way more detailed, has like it will have like a lot more curves or diagonals or like a bunch of crazy other shit or like multiple rooms that have like different doorways, stuff like that. Those I'll do like some of a section, disconnect it, start over on the same one. So like it's all still going along the same wall, but I'll go like click, left click, left click, left click, left click, right click, left click in the same spot, left click, left click, left click, left click. Just so that if I fuck up, I'm only deleting a small section of what I've already done, not all of what I've already done. But this is one of those maps where that's not too big a deal, especially because, like I said, most of this is like aligned with the grid or it's squared off. Granted, some of it's like got a lot of curves, like right fucking here and shit, but not a big deal. But as you can see, doing dynamic lighting is not super difficult. It's just kind of tedious and time consuming, depending on your map. Some maps are much more of a pain in the ass than others. But like this one, not too big deal. There have been other maps though. Oh God, help me. Let's see, do I have anyone right here? Like this map. This map was kind of a pain in the ass because mostly due to its size. So let me show you.
Yeah.
And it also has a lot of curves. And as you can see, it has like arrow slits and shit like that in it. Like this map was a pain in the ass. Shit like this. And this one even had a secret room that I had to hide the fact there was a secret room here and then recreate walls to be there for players to see and not see and shit. Here's another map that was kind of a pain in the ass. Mostly due to its large size. And again, it has like arrow slits and shit. And like strange shaped parts of the walls and stuff. Some of them I had to, sometimes I had to take the lines and like when you click on a line, you can see these little anchor points on them. You can rotate them. You can change their size, their width, and their length and stuff like that. Just like any other shape. Stuff like that. Yeah. Sometimes it can get very complex. But, if you just want to keep it simple, you don't have to do most of what I just showed. You can easily just leave it as it is. Now, we got the walls done. Obviously, we need to make the doors. Now, for dynamic lighting, do not connect your doors to your walls and make them a different color. That is the advice that I once was told when I was first learning. I highly advise you do the same because otherwise it will be a nightmare. Because obviously, I accidentally just changed somebody's color. I did, didn't I? Or did I just accidentally change? It was on you, didn't I? Okay, I don't think it actually did it. If it did, we'll worry about it later. I need to go to the tool. I usually use this like bright green for doors and shit. But obviously, you got to have something block the door. If it's connected to the wall, when somebody comes over and goes, I want to open this door, you have to move that line. You can't make it to where they can move through it or you make the line not block or anything like that. You literally have to click on the line and move it. Because of this large door, I'm going to make the line a little bit thicker. One, because it's easier for me to click on it. But I usually like to make the lines slightly wider like this than the door, so that if they were to close the door, I could easily get it lined up. Because I'm going to make it the exact pixel size of the opening space, and I go to place it down, I might end up placing it down like this, and then I'll have this annoying little gap here where someone's like, hey, there's a gap right here, I can see into the room, and I'm like, fuck, you shouldn't notice either. So, I like to do like this. So when somebody goes, let's say, we're on the object layer, and let me get a monster here. I was looking for the Dwergar for some reason. I got this Dwergar here. Let's say this is a player for some reason. They go, boop, boop, boop. Oh, I'd like to open this door. I go, okay. And I switch over to dynamic lighting, and I take this, and I just slide it over here out of the way. And then I go, I want to close the door. Just pick it up, move it back. I don't mind deleting it because, unless the door is destroyed and therefore can no longer be usable, I don't recommend deleting that line. I rather, just click and move it off to the side. Usually most maps have somewhere you can do that with. Because of the way I'm doing it with this, where this is the only part that they'll be running around in. This outside part doesn't matter because I've separated those two into two different images. You can put them in the between areas here and here. Come over here and do the same thing with this one. This particular door doesn't line with the grid like that other one did. That's fine. Just stretch this out a little bit, thicken it up some. And generally the reason why I make it thicker is so it's easier to click on. And so I can click and drag it. And then that's done. Now these are bars right here, is what those are, I believe. Let me check. J2. There it is. To your left as you enter, the hall is closed. No double door, no handles to the right is a curved tunnel blocked by an iron gate that has 1 foot square gap between its horizontal and vertical bars. Iron hinges on the northern side of the gate indicate that it swings in. Now, I could just leave these here, like, no, you can't go through these are iron bars or whatever. But you know me. I can't just leave it like that. No. I want it to be obvious that there's something there. Generally what I do with this, when it comes to, like, if you want something to block visual line of sight without actually completely obscuring the thing, most people think, oh, well, we got the circle tool, why don't use that? I don't, because then you can't see the actual object. Like, you know what a bar looks like. You know what it's an iron bar. So I don't want it to make it look like there's pillars there. That's different. If there was a pillar, then that's something else. Now, these are just iron bars. So usually I have found, as well as a lot of advice will tell you, to use X's or, like, just use a cross over an object like a tree or a rock that you want to just block line of sight but not actually obscure the object. Because a cross will block visual line of sight perfectly. If you do essentially this. You just make a little cross. And that's going to block your ability to see just as effectively as if I did a box. Or, in this case, a circle. But what it won't do is, if I was to use this circle, for example, say we shrink it down. I can click on it. See this? That will block line of sight, yes. But that's a lot harder to tell what that object is if you're a player. I can see it just fine, but I know that blocks all line of sight. So, not really super great. The same thing with a square. Across, on the other hand, make it the right size. This will also block your sight without obscuring the object. So that way you can't see through the bars, so that when I put a bunch of these along the line here, when you're standing over here, you can still see into the hallway, but you can only see through the slits of a bar. Makes it look a little bit cooler, in my opinion. Then once I got it right sized, I copy and paste it, and I put it on the other bars because each of these are approximately the same size, so they should all be just fine for the same object each time. You want to make sure you want to click and drag to highlight them because at least if you do it the way I just did, which is where you make 2 separate lines, because you want to move both of them at the same time. Because I'm a little bit of an OCD person when it comes to some things, and I want it to be a perfectly equal on all sides across. I don't want one line to be slightly longer than the other one. The X or the Y axis being slightly longer. So that's why I did it the way I did a moment ago, where I went Shift, click, 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 and click. That way they're the exact same length, and then when you highlight it and you grab the one in the corners, it will stay the exact same proportions no matter what size you make it. And then when you get it to your side, then you just move it around. You don't want to accidentally go over here and click on it and then do this. Oh, no, look at that. You fucked up. Now they're not connected. Now they're not connected center anymore. Well, you can easily fix that by just doing undo. And then you click and drag to create this little square box to highlight all of it. Then you can move them together as one object. And then that should be it pretty much for this map. Come over here to dynamic lighting. You go ahead and turn that on. I like to turn Explorer mode on. No need to do daylight mode because there's no daylight in ROM with the Frost Maintenance. Darkness everywhere all the time. Update when objects drop. Then we'll take our little dwerg over here. And if we want to make sure what the players can see and what they can't see, as a dungeon master, I can do this even in the middle of the game. Click on the token, hit Control L. Now you see exactly what that token can see. So as that token moves, hey, look at that. Hey, what's that over there? Ooh, hey, looks like there's a door or something like that over there. Or hey, there's some weird razor things over here.
Oh, that's new. I didn't realize that before.
That as a dungeon master, I can Control L to see what my tokens see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, obviously, because I have it where tokens can't move through barriers. Oh shit! Never mind. Oh wait. Okay, I see. Shit, that was what's happening. It's because there's actually enough gap for the thing to get through. But like, see right here, I can't make them move through here or here. Not while I have it set to where I can see what it's doing. Now, if I off-click that, because you can turn that off easily by just left-clicking somewhere on the map. Now, when I do this, now I can move them through the walls if I so wish. So I can move them in here and be like, okay, what can you see in here? Now, as you can see, this looks like in grayscale. It's because I have Explorer mode on. So you can, because obviously you know what the dimensions of the room you just were in a moment ago. But if I were to say, drop another Dwergar in here, I know it for a fact I just dropped a Dwergar here because he's right here. Look at that. But this Dwergar doesn't see him because he's on the other side of this wall. But he sees this room. He knows there's a room here. He doesn't see this Dwergar in here until he comes in here. Then he can see him. That's how Explorer mode works. Which should have also moved this out. I think it's because I didn't move him around in here. That's why. So now he knows like what was in that room, but he doesn't see what's in that room right that second. So even if there was, say, a new enemy that just appeared in there, doesn't see him, even though he's right here. I know for a fact he's right there. But he won't see him until he's in that room where you can see him. Or until the Dungeon Master actually opens the fucking door and then he can actually see between the two rooms. See? He's right here. He doesn't see him. But he sees that, but he knows what that room looks like, even though he can't see that room. But if he came over here and goes, hey, there's a guy right there. Same thing over here. That's how Explorer mode works. And then we'll just put that back right there. And that's really what I do to test my sight lines to make sure the dynamic lighting barriers are working the way they're supposed to. I literally just drop a token on them. Now, I'm going to thin this up just a little bit because I like to keep the blind thinner than the door so that you guys don't get confused on what's a wall and what's a door. You know what I mean? So that there is a distinct difference between what a wall looks like, what a door looks like. See? Especially if I were to go over here to this little tool is your darkness tool. Got permanent darkness, explorable darkness. Permanent darkness, I can pretty much just hide something I don't want you to see, regardless of what dynamic lighting says. Explorable darkness is what I usually mess with. You need to hide or reveal. I usually go here to reset from time to time, so that now when we click on him, that room is no longer revealed because I've reset what has been explored. But you can still tell that is a door. Now we move over here. Look over here. You can tell that that's also a door. You can barely see it, but it's also around a corner through fucking gate bars. Probably thin it up a little bit too. This is usually what I do. I'll kind of mess with it a little bit here and there until I feel that it's right. And then when I'm satisfied with it, then I'll leave it alone and probably check it every once in a while just to make sure. Or I'll have a new idea and I'll go and I'd rather change this real quick. Or, I remember I forgot to do this one thing on this map. And I'll go and I'll fuck with it and fix it or whatnot. And usually I'll do a last minute check, either just before the game on the day of, an hour or two before, or the night before. But then inevitably something will go wrong at the moment we start playing, even though I've checked it 15 times throughout the 2 weeks between games, because I'm in life. But delete all these guys, and then we'll come over here to here, and then we'll reset Explorable Darkness. And that's pretty much it for the map. Each of these chests has objects in it and stuff like that based on what's in here in the book. And then usually I'll come over here to a handout under loot here. Yeah, chapter 2. And let's see, I'll make a subfolder. Y'all moot. Alphabetize it. Then I'll go over here to add handout. The way I'm doing this is I'm right clicking on things. You could go over here to go to add, but if I wanted it to be in, say, a subfolder, you right click on it. You can put add character, add handout, sort A through Z. You can rename it. You can delete it. You can delete the folder and all of what's in that folder. I don't recommend doing that right this second because I have a lot of shit in that folder. But you just click on one of these. You could add a subfolder, which is what this is. To this, to that. These are all subfolders, and then these are the actual handouts. So it's for organizational stuff. And you just click on, and once you click add handout or add character sheet, the character sheet will get added as a random name. It'll just jumble some letters together and oh, that's a character name, right? I'm no, it's a random jumble of letters you just throw in there. Or for handouts, it will say mysterious. No, you just click on it, you open it up, and because I can do this, I go to edit. I'll change it to whatever, depending on what it is. See, I got multiple chests in here, so I'd probably make one chest 1, chest 2, chest 3, etc., etc. And then I'll take an image, because I like to give it an image. Nope, not that one. Handouts, here it is. Open that up. And I'll go over here to I got this icon for a big pile of treasure. I just click and drag that over here to this thing right here, drop that in, and then save it as so that when you open the handout, you got this big pile of treasure to indicate, oh, this is treasure. This is what I'm looting. This is what I've acquired. And then I'll come down here to description and notes, and I'll type in, whatever. And I'll type something in there, and then because of who I am, I also will like change its size and font a little bit so it's easier to read, stuff like that. And then I'll do all that. I usually don't put it in players' notes until they are actually need to look at it, and then I'll go over here to be like, in players journals, all players, and stuff like that. And then and I'll do that in the middle of a game. Like I'm like, oh, I open this chest, cool. You find blah blah blah. Let me get you your handout, and I'll pull the handout out, and I'll open this up, and I'll edit it to where it's in your journal. So I'll drop it into your journal. That way you can see it whenever you feel like, as well as when I click the show to players button. If you have the permission to see it, i.e. it's in your journal and I've given you permission to look at it, I click show players, it will automatically go boop onto your screen, whether you want it or not, and you'll be able to see it. But I'll edit that handout in a minute, probably later. Watching me sit quietly reading the book and then slowly typing in what's in each fucking chest, I'm sure it will not be super riveting. I did just remember that I skipped one thing that I normally probably would have done, which is I would probably go to the map layer and I'd probably put numbers right here. But I'd probably do an object tokens first and then move that to the thing. So I'd probably come over to my tool here, the draw tool, go here to text, probably change it to, I don't know, blue. Now put like a 1. And also increase it to be much more significantly larger. Okay, why did you disappear? There we go. Yeah. And then I'll put it on like each chest. 1 there, 2 there, 3 there, 4 there. That way I can correspond it to the handouts and make my life easier. Right, yeah. We'll do that in a minute. I also do that same thing with the labeling. So that I can look at the map and then look down at my thing and know what the hell I'm looking at. Because the map image isn't always on the same page as room descriptions sometimes. So I'll also do the same thing with this one where I'll make this one much larger. Just let me do that. I have to make that a separate thing. And this is J2. As I'm sure you guys have noticed that sometimes you guys can see what the label annotations are on the map. Because I don't care if you know that this is room J2. What's that going to do for you guys? Oh, guys, we know this is room J2. What does that mean? Nothing to you. Other than being able to go, I'm going to have my character move to J4 while everybody else is going to J3. Which, so it makes it easier for you guys, but it also makes it easier for me when you specifically tell me what room number it is. Like, I'm going to go room number 5. Because you couldn't see this unless you were in the room anyway. So it's like, plus, it's not like you have access to my notes to know what is in J2. You just know this is labeled room J2. And then I'll take that and put that in the map layer. And then I'll do that to the other ones, which, I should have done the copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. And then I'll change this one to number 5. Number 3. This one's number 4. Oh, here's number 1. I'll just drop that in the map layer. And drop this in the map layer. This in the map layer. I'd probably make this yellow, actually. Yeah. Since the text aligns with the grid, here's a neat trick. If you want it to be in a very precise, specific location, if you hold down the Alt key, and then you click and drag it, it will no longer snap to grid. So if I wanted to put it right here in the middle of this chest, which it normally wouldn't do so because of the grid, it can. And then I'll let go of the Alt key and then click off the side, and it'll be right there. Here's for number 2. Here's for number 3. Here's number 4. I even labeled this one. Number 5. I decided yet. And I'll hold down the Alt key to align it where I want it to be. Alt key, align that one. Align that one. Align latch one. And I'll just like highlight all of them and then put them in the map layer. Because, I'm not super mysterious about what number the chest is. It just makes it easier to be like, I'm going to open chest number 3. And I'm like, okay. And I'll go over to the handouts, and I'll open up the handout that I have labeled as chest 3. Open that up and be like, okay, what's in chest 3? That's what's in chest 3? Cool. And then I'll edit so you guys can see it and then show it to you guys, and then you guys can look at it. So, pretty simple, pretty easy, not too complicated. If I'd had windows that were not able to be seen through, I would make a separate line from what I use for doors. So I probably would use a different color, because like some maps I've made it to where it's like there's a window here, but it has curtains drawn over it, so you can't see through it. But if you were to pull those curtains aside, then you'd be able to see through it, and then I would move that barrier line off to the side. And like just like with the doors, I make it a separate color, and I do all the same things with the sizing, and I just click and move it off to the side. But this is like an underground like vault thing, so there's no windows, obviously. I think that's it for this particular map, and I don't think I have anything else to show. Oh, other than naming your maps. And you're all moot outside. Then you hit enter. You're all moot inside, and then enter. And then you can click and drag these and like move them around and put them wherever you want, depending on your fucking whatever, There. Might make handouts of the giant rooms in area J2. That's something I want about there. That's pretty much it. Any questions that you guys have?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll probably just look at the video later on if I want. If I didn't get it.
Here are the maps. On that. Control. Paste. Yeah. And then, once I turn dynamic lighting on in this map, because I forgot to do it. Yeah. Do I have it on? Anything? Yeah. Just click on it. Trying to not be asked. The only reason why this driver can see right now is because he has dark vision out to like 120 feet. So actually, there's no light source on this map, so he couldn't see. But yeah, as you can see, you can still you can tell these are chairs, regardless of where you're standing. but you cannot see past them. Now, if I were to grab, say, 10-towners, guards, militiamen. I was drop this poor schmuck in here. This is a human. This token is connected to a human sheet. He can't see dick. Is he blind as fuck? Over here, you'll have this one tool that looks like a torch. Depending on whether you're on the objects tokens or the dynamic lighting token layer, it depends on whether or not. You can take this and you can drop it. You can put this on the token layer like this. It's default to have the light properties of a standard torch, which is 20 feet of bright and 20 feet of dim, but you can edit them otherwise. But now when I go over here and I click on this guy, now he can see. Huzzah! Isn't that grand? Depending on where this light source is. But now he can, of course, only see where this light is. So if I were to take this Dwergar and move him way over here, outside the radius of the torch, he can no longer see that guy. We can still see where he is because I still have him selected. So I can do this. As he moves closer, still can't see him, Oh, wait. You can see him a little bit because he's in the dim light now. It's closer and closer, and now he's in bright light. Now he can be seen. But if he just goes, he's gone. But this person can also physically see this torch. Which, let's say that like Kiri's character was utilizing a torch and he threw it on the ground. Well, we would want to know where that torch is because he'd be able to see it. But let's say, let's flip over to this map because I have a few things like that. See this Brazor? These are also humans. Now you can see in this room because of this Brazor, because if we go to the dynamic lighting layer, I have that same torch right there. I have it sitting where that Brazor is. But you can't see the actual torch icon token that I placed there because it's on dynamic lighting. You can't see anything I put on dynamic lighting, such as tokens. Swap back over here. And like I said, if you just double left click on it like any other token, you can bring up this. None of this information matters. None of this information matters because it's a light source. This is the only thing that matters. It doesn't have vision. You don't have to worry about it having vision, but emits light. You can play with the slider to change how bright that light is, whether or not it emits any light. You can turn that on or off, and then you can change it from 20 feet to let's say it's a candle. It only does 5 feet of bright and 5 feet of dim for a total of 10 feet. And come back over to this poor schmuck. Now he has much less light. Now he's scared because he's in the dark. Because all his dumbass brought out into the wilderness is a fucking candle. But let's say he brought a lantern. Let's say he has a lamp. Actually, let's say he has a lamp, which I believe is, I want to say it's 30 by 30 feet. This is why I have my DM screen that comes in handy because it has light sources on it. A lamp is 15 feet of bright feet and 30 feet of dim light. A lantern was the one that was 30 feet by bright and 30 feet dim. Now this poor schmuck can see a lot farther. So look at this. Now he feels safe because his ass brought a lamp and not a candle. You can also do fun stuff like directional lights. Say it's a 15 degrees of the center. So if you wanted to make something that had directional light, say like an actual lantern, if you wanted to do a lantern that was like a hooded lantern that only points in one direction, it's a lighthouse now. And then you can come in here and you can make it a wider degree. You can make it like 30 degrees instead. You can also, instead of putting it total size of field, you can make it to where, see, 50% of the light is before the center, 50% is after. Oops, sorry. Okay. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. I don't usually do directional lighting because it's not necessary. You can also change the color of the light. Let's say, someone like Daniel comes around a corner, and I wanted to make it look like he got hit with a flashbang, and I make it a big, bright white light. Or let's say it's a strange, mysterious red glow. That's what the color of the light is now. So let's say you're this poor human who sees a strange, glowing red object. Let's reduce its size. Let's make it 10. Let's make it not super bright. Oh, what's that? I see something glowing red over there. Oh my God! What is it? Ah! You can also make a token like this person emit light as well. Let's say he's carrying a torch. 20 feet, bright light, 20 feet of dim light. So now he can see around him. But you can also see other light sources. This is something you guys don't see very often because your characters have dark vision, but Kiri gets to see this kind of view all the time. And be like, oh, there's something red glowing over there. Now, he doesn't see anything that's right here in the middle. So let's say if I put this Dwergar right here. You don't see the Dwergar because his light is too far to reach over here, and this light doesn't illuminate right there. But if I were to move this light to here, then he would see the Dwergar bathed in that red light. Or if he were to move closer, like here, then he would be able to see that Dwergar. Because he has a torch. And then I can also change the color of that light. I can also change the color of night vision. So let's say this Dwergar, because he already has night vision. I wanted to tint the color. Now let's say we were playing more of a modern game, and you guys actually literally put night vision goggles on. Your night vision would look like this. Going dark. Pew! You know, that's what your vision looks like. Everything's bathed in green. If I wanted to have that level of versatility and immersion. Maybe we gray it out some because you're colorblind or you can only see in gray. I don't normally do this very often because it does make it hard for us, the players, to see. But, you know, it is one of those things. I can also limit the field of vision of the person itself, just like I can an object. So let's say you got a flashlight. Or I wanted to make it to where or if there was facing, like say if D&D had facing as an actual thing. You know, say, you know, I wanted to do like some stealth game bullshit where it's like, okay, well, here's his field of vision. He's looking over here, so he won't see someone sneaking up on him over here or over here. Normally, I don't worry about, like I said, I don't really worry about that, just due to the fact of like, D&D doesn't have facing as a mechanic. It's not a thing. I can just delete these guys and delete that. Because this place is super dark, there's no light source. Okay, why is it doing that? But, like I said, if I didn't want you guys to see the actual icon of a torch, I would put it under this layer instead. So it could still emit light, but you wouldn't see the actual object. So let's see, let me get that motion again. So now he sees this area of light. It's right here, but you don't actually see the torch that's there. useful if I have an object that's there that is emitting the light and whatnot. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless anyone has any particular questions about how I do dynamic lighting and whatnot. The things I do for it.
No, but at least I know what
assume that your silence means that you are.
No, but at least I know what the hell I'm doing wrong when I use it.
But yeah, that's pretty much how I make a map. A lot of finagling. None of it's difficult or complicated. It's just time consuming. But like we've been here, we started an hour or two ago, and that's how long it took me to do all that. And I'm still not technically done. There's some other stuff I got to do, but that's more of not necessarily to the map. That's more of I got to make some handouts and stuff like that. I also got to put monsters on the field, which caused me to do some reading here real quick. First, see what's involved here. See, frost giant skeletons, invisible stalker, winter wolf. Oh, that's if that bitch is there. I'm not gonna have her be there now. So never mind, the winter wolf won't be there. Swarm of ravens, though. Might have to have some swarm of ravens. I don't have an image of a swarm of ravens. So you guys get to watch me do my Google Fu. And a frost giant.
Well, depending on the type and if you have the monster manual or you require the monster manual, you just type in over here, click over here. I can't see because I'm in bed right now. Type the monster in question, just drag and drop, and you have a fully spawn monster. Now, if you don't, you have to type in the stats manually.
Alright, if you're talking about the compendium, I was going to show that off when I made tokens. But I meant I don't actually have an image of a swarm of ravens. Is what I meant.
Yeah, we also.
So I had to go to Google and find one.
Yeah, you have to go to.
Which is what I refer to as my Google Fu.
Yeah, you have to go to Google.
Which is all the crazy things I do to get the search engine to show me what I want.
Yeah, exactly. You have to go to Google to actually find it.
Because if I come over here and I just type in, let's say for your game, I need some images of pirates. If I just go in here and I go pirates,
there you go.
This is what I get. Well, I don't want these kinds of pirates. I want fantasy pirates. Well, that narrowed it down some. You can also go D&D pirates.
No, that I don't do that.
Yeah, you have your keywords. Let's say I want tieflings specifically. First, I got to spell it right. We had tieflings. Let's say I want female tiefling, etc., etc., etc. Now, sometimes you get go back a couple of ones to, let's say, fantasy pirates. Sometimes you'll get ones that look like this guy, who looks kind of like a captain, or this guy, who also kind of looks like a captain, or this chick, who also looks kind of important, or this guy, or this chick. Well, what if I don't want a captain guy? I've discovered that instead of going with pirates, because pirates have a very distinct look by internet's beliefs, you can also go to fantasy sailor. That can get you less piratey, or sorry, not just less piratey, but less captainy looking guys. Like this guy, actually no, he looks a little bit more proper. Like this guy looks just like a regular dude on a fucking ship. Or this woman, or a regular person on a fucking ship. Or here's another one. Now these look more like deckhands. So if you wanted like a deckhand instead of she looks like some kind of cleric of some kind of like water cleric. Oh, that's cool. That I believe is fucking Sailor Neptune for ceremony. Yeah. Sometimes you'll get images like that every once in a while where it's just like It's not what I'm looking for, but hey, I appreciate good artwork. So sometimes I'll get distracted when I'm doing this, and I'll be like, "Oh, that looks cool," because I want to just look at it. Some of these are actually really good. Because there are people out there that make really good fucking artwork, and they post it onto the internet. And sometimes I find ones that people have done that are really fucking good, and I take them and use them as tokens or
we
something
know
like that.
you're into Sailor Moon now.
But go back a couple here. But yeah, sometimes you want someone like this who looks like one of the crewmen and doesn't look like a captain. So sometimes you want generally you gotta be careful of plurals because if you use plurals, sometimes it fucks up the search engine. You want to go fantasy pirate, not pirates, because as you can see, I have slightly different images in the search engine here. This image wasn't there when I had pirates. I had plural. This image you guys might recognize from the last time we played. This is one of the. This is the rifleman. This is the rifleman image. Although I cropped out a lot of the squid arm and a lot of this to where it was just her. But overall, this is the same image of the Luskanite pirate rifleman. And this is in this image is one I used for the Luskan pirate captains, I believe. And like I said, I cropped a lot of this. Like if they have watermarks like this or like this, stuff like that, I try to cut those out because those don't really need to be in the image if I can avoid it. Sometimes I can't. But it is what it is. Oh, that's cool. I never saw that last time I was looking around. Neat. But like I said, sometimes you want pirate. Sometimes you want a pirate captain. You go fantasy pirate captain. Now you got things like this. Or maybe you want to go with deckhand. And get you stuff like this. This strange person with his weird squid tentacle arm. Like this. Ooh, this is actually a really good one. And you want pirate archer. So now we got images like, oh, not that one. That's not a pirate. Sometimes it doesn't give you exactly what you're looking for, but like this one though, that's a pirate. She's got this cool, looks like this magic water bow thing. This is pretty good if I was doing my Countport game, because that she looks, I would say Assyrian perhaps. She kind of reminds me of the Assyrians a little. So like I said, if I was playing in that kind of a culture, this would be a really cool image. Or if we were playing more of a feudal Asian type of thing, this image would be really good. If we were playing that's very obviously Japanese, the outfits she's wearing. But through that image, if we scroll down here, I'm sure we can find fantasy Asia type stuff. And this is what I'll do, as I'll keep looking until I find what I want that fits my parameters. Here's another one. This is looks like a brigand or a sailor or a traveler with a crossbow. I wanted somebody with a crossbow. And you notice a lot of these images are women, and that's because a lot of people like to draw women more than men. But, there's plenty of men too. And generally, unless the gender of the particular character I'm looking for really, really fucking matters, I just pick whatever I think looks cool. Like, if I was looking for a crossbow person like this, I would just take this image because I think that looks really cool. Now I would probably cut out the background and stuff like that. Because the gender of the character doesn't matter unless it does. So it's unless it's this person has to be a woman or this person has to be a man, then I'll probably look a little bit harder to try and find, the appropriate gender. Or if they weren't human, let's say I wanted one, but I wanted it to be an orc. Fantasy orc pirate. archer. Now, I would type that in to try and see if I can find orcs. Now, that's super specific. Finding a pirate or an orcish pirate archer, odds are you may not find it. So sometimes you kind of got to settle with what you got. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, never mind. Here we go. That's an orc archer. According to the caption on here, that's a man. There's another one. Now, these aren't particularly piratey looking, but sometimes you got to make sacrifices here and there. Because the idea is you get as close to what you're trying to get as you can. And yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do that. Now, let me read this adventure a little bit real quick. Take magic spell. Some magic reveals an aura of necromancy around the Ring of Thrones. Characters can see the frost giant apparitions only if they step into the ring under the light of a full moon. Otherwise, the thrones are empty and the characters have nothing else to interact with. The apparitions refuse to speak in the character's presence, and they cannot be harmed or turned. Well, I could do it that way, but odds are I'll probably have them talk to him because I'm going to use this specifically for one of the players. One of my players is playing a Turtle Rune Knight fighter. So he's a turtle man who's a fighter. One of the subclasses he picked was Rune Knight. So he uses like rune magic and stuff like that to enhance his fighter capabilities. So like he carves like runes of power into his weapons or armor and then can activate certain abilities from them, which is pretty cool. And because we're playing in Forgotten Realms, we talked a bit, and we decided he's from Ruthium, which is one of the few cultures that are non-giant that still know rune magic. That's what one of the things they're known for. So, essentially, his character is a Ruthium Sea Raider, or became a Ruthium Sea Raider early on in his life. Because turtles are wandering nomad types. They get born on like some random beach and they hang out with their parents for like a year and then their parents die. That's just how the turtle lifespan works. And then he like fucked off and lived the rest of his life. So part of his backstory is that he became a Ruthian Sea Raider and eventually earned the respect of enough of the Ruthians that one of them, who was a rune carver themselves, taught him how to become a rune carver and use rune magic. And that's how he became a rune knight. That's part of his backstory. And so, like, he's got, like, all these, like, runes carved into the back of his shell and stuff like that. Because we thought it would be neat to reflavor some of his fighter abilities, like Second Wind and Action Surge, as more rune magic. So, like, when he activates Second Wind, he has a rune that represents life, endurance, healing, stuff like that, that glows on his back, and then his wounds will start to close up, because that's part of the flavor of his character. We thought that was cool. And because this is essentially like an ancient site of giants where rune magic originated from in the canon of the lore, rune magic came from giants. There's actually a picture of some giant runes in here for the adventure right here. These are giant runes, which are used as a language, but rune magic uses runes as areas of like magical focus and stuff like that. So I think I like the idea of him like learning about this site and coming to it as part of like a cultural thing for his character background, because Ruthians do what's called a rune quest. Some Ruthians will go on what's called a rune quest, which is very similar to that of like a spirit journey for like your Native Americans, or like a fucking what's another term for another culture? Your spirit journey, your vision quest, your stuff like that. Essentially what a rune quest is, where you go out and you do some stuff to gain some insight or enlightenment. And as part of the rune quest, what a Ruthian will do is they will learn and create their own rune that doesn't already exist.
Good.
They'll create what it looks like, and not necessarily they'll make a drawing and be like, this is a rune now. No, it's more of like a spiritual living thing that like as you go on a journey and you gain certain knowledge or overcome certain obstacles, whatever, a rune will form in your mind, and then you will unlock the meaning of that rune that forms in your mind and know what it means, and that rune will now have power within rune magic. So like that. So I thought it'd be cool to give them like give that player that information and have them come here and on a rune quest. And he'll meet these giants, and it says that they won't talk to them when the players are there. And I'm like, nah, fuck that. I want the fucking big giant frost giant ghost person to talk to him and be like, who dares disturbs me, blah blah blah. Prove your worth, puny turtle man. And then he summons like a monster from the fight, which it was gonna do that part anyway. But so then the dungeon master, I can do what I want. This is how I prep for a session. I look at what would be more interesting. Not just for the player, but also for me. Having a bunch of ghosts just sit there and stare at you, I don't find it very interesting because I want them to talk. I want them to talk shit to you because it's funny. But yeah, it says bear lifting one finger in the apparition of Rigagaria Savara. However the fuck you pronounce that. Giants are weird. Summons a frost giant skeleton to challenge the party. If the skeleton's defeated, disappears, and Reggie here. Summons 2 invisible stalkers to carry on the fight. Each creature summoned in this manner appears in an allied space of his choice within the Circle of Thrones. Appears to defeat the Frost Giant Skeleton and the invisible stalkers. He is impressed and challenges them no more. Furthermore, the character's triumph earns them reward, access to the vault under the hill. The other 6 apparitions intone ancient words in Giant, causing Reggiara. I don't know how his name's pronounced. I'm calling him Reggie right now. To fade away as his throne raises 30 feet in the air, revealing a hidden staircase that descends into Area J2. Cool. So yeah. So I'd have him say some shit, and depending on what I was going for. I usually don't pre-plan specific dialogue. I'll think what is information I want them to say, or what is particular point I want them to say. Like, I want him to say something along the lines of, prove your strength, or prove your worth, or, show me you are strong enough to stand amongst us, or, shit like that. Something that conveys those meanings. But usually it's not till we get to the game itself where I'll have to decide the specific words he'll say, because I don't want to pre-write down dialogue. I'm not a fucking writer. I'm not doing that shit. Plus, I want it to be more natural, in the moment, based on what's happening. Because if I read you what I've already written down, then that's what he'll say, and that's only what he'll say. He won't actually he'll just be talking at you, not dialoguing with you. There's a difference. But I do plan out, what specific things do I want them to say, such as, I want them to say something along the lines of, prove you are a strong warrior or something like that. And as I think about it, I'll think about, more specifics on, what word choice would he pick in the sentence like that, or, how would he convey that? What tone would he give that? And that's usually what I'll think about a lot in between, the days or so between now and then. Let me get Monster. Here we go. Undead, because I already have. Yep. Frost Giant Skeleton. Also, just so you guys know, if you wanted to see the image of a token better, you can click on it and then hit the Z key. And it brings it like this. I, as the Dungeon Master, if I hold down the Shift key and then hit Z, it will bring that image up to everybody that's in the game, including you guys. Which is what I've done to you guys a few times. I hold down Shift and then hit Z rather than just hit Z. Because if you hit Z, it will only show it to you. But if you hit Shift Z, it will show it to everybody. If you're the Dungeon Master. It won't do it if you're a player, as far as I know. But yeah, he's going to fight this fucking thing. And if I'm lucky, he'll try to fucking one-on-one with it, because that would be fucking badass. Because it'd be like, prove your strength, warrior, in single combats, and be like, cool. And then he'll fight this fucking thing. I'll probably put it right here or something like that. And then I'll just take this and I'll right-click on it, go to layer, and then go to GM layer, so that I can still see where it is, but nobody else will be able to see it if they're not the Dungeon Master. It also has invisible stalkers, which I don't have a sheet, nor do I have images of invisible stalkers. So you guys get to watch me make one. Let's see. Invisible stalkers are elemental. So we go here to elemental, add character sheet. That right there. Go to edit and edit its name. Invisible stalkers. Nope, not stalkers, just stalker. And then I'll just copy that text real quick. Go over to the character sheet. It's going to ask you if you want to use the character mancer, create an NPC, or edit sheet directly. Obviously, I'm making an NPC, so hit create NPC, and then you get this. And if I'm lucky, if I go over here to the compendium and I paste invisible stalker in here, woo! It's in the compendium. Not all the time. Sometimes it's not, and I have to manually insert it into the thing. But because it is, I can just click and drag and drop it, and it will populate all of its stuff for me.
I just said that earlier, but yeah. If it isn't, then you have to manually create it.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'd have to come in here and I'd have to add its name and its type and its armor class, its hit points, and I'd have to manually add all of that.
Or if it's just an NPC, or if it's just an enemy that's like a human or an orc or something like that.
Yeah, I have to click
and not a normal monster that you find.
They have a special ability. I have to add it, change its name, and give it its thing that has a special tag. I have to click this little add button and add it in here. Damage type. If it's a specific attack, you hit the little checkbox. So if you do this stuff, you can type in like what its range or reach is. Is it melee or ranged? What's its hit bonus? What's its damage? What type of damage is it? Does it have a secondary damage effect? Like, is it an axe that's also on fire? So maybe it does fire damage, etc., etc. Yeah, there we go. There's a little padlock here. If you click it and it open, you can grab these little things right here, and you can like move them around. So say if I wanted like this, multi-attack down here and slam up here for whatever reason. You can do that, but I don't, so I'm going to move it right here. You can also just delete it if you hit this little box here. Do the same thing over here. Under here, if you scroll down here, you can, if I uncheck this, I could change this to a PC sheet instead of an NPC sheet, if I so wanted to. You can check these different boxes, like does it have bonus actions, does it have reactions, does it have legendary actions? If so, how many? Does it have mythic actions? Mythic actions being from the Greek mythology campaign setting book, which was like Mythic Odysseys or something like that. Is it spellcaster? Stuff like that. So it can be like, always roll with advantage. You can also set it to never roll with advantage, or to query or ask every time I go to click on it whether I want it to have advantage or not. Or I can set it to be a toggle. I just set it to be always, because it's easier that way. Whisper rolls to GM. This is, I have it set to whisper toggle, so which is right here. Public and GM, I can toggle back and forth on the sheet. If it's set to public and I go and do the slam attack, everybody in the game would be able to see that. Well, maybe I don't want you to see what he's rolling. Set to GM, that same slam, I could see it, but if you guys were logged in with me right now, you would not be able to see that, because that only will transfer to the GM, me. Because I am the GM, of course I can see it. I have that set to your PC sheets. I don't know if I set it for theirs. This is Howler. This is the fighter I was talking about. This is Halar, Tortle Fighter. Yep. See, I also have it set to their character sheets. I also have it set to your character sheets, where they can go public or GM. So let's say he wanted to attack with his battle axe. Everybody would see that. Well, let's say he only wants to make a roll that I can see. Like, he goes, I'm not saying that he would, but let's say if he was, say, a rogue, and he had good sleight of hand, which they actually do have a fucking rogue in their party, like Amon-Ra. Here we go. This is a tiefling rogue. This is one of our other players. Let's say he wanted to pickpocket one of the other players, but he didn't want that player to know. He could send me a text message at the table on the phone. Because we play in person, but let's say if it's you guys, let's say we're not playing in person, and you're like, you pull up your Discord and you're like, hey Spencer, I want to rob Jim Pan. Yes, I literally just typed that to Jim Pan. I know I get to think, and I'll be like, okay, and I'll be like, roll sleight of hand. Yeah, I'm using it as my guinea pig for my example. Now I'll tell you to roll sleight of hand. Well, let's say you don't want the other players to see you just roll sleight of hand, because you just come over here and click sleight of hand. Well, fuck. Now they know you just rolled sleight of hand. Everyone's going to be like, why are you rolling sleight of hand? And they might believe you if you go, oh, sorry, misclicked. And they might not. But say you only want me to see that, because I need to be the one to see that result, not the other players. Come over here to switch to the GM. Now the only people that can see that is you and me. Now you can, of course, accomplish that by, I have my dice bag over there, so I don't feel like reaching over to get it, just rolling dice outside of Roll20. Like Daniel has his own dice. He also has a dice roller on his D&D Beyond account that he uses. But let's say you don't do that, or you don't have that, or you just want me to see it. Because maybe you're playing with the Dungeon Master who's a little bit more anal and doesn't like you, doesn't trust you to be honest if you roll dice where he can't see them. I am not that kind of Dungeon Master. I don't give a fuck.
Well, that's because we're all in person, so we know we're not being dicks.
Because, like, in a game where I can just change or make up a rule at any time, it's kind of pointless to cheat. Yeah, that's poor sportsmanship. Besides, half the time you guys like when you fail sometimes, because then I fucking make up some shit like, oh, you rolled a 1, you fall down the stairs and land in a barrel of bananas, and you're now stuck in a big pile of bananas that are crushing Rolf's apples. And an Eddie joke there for anyone that gets that reference. Kevin, help! The weight of the bananas is crushing Rolf's apples!
Like, why do you, like Jim Pan, why do you think I have the level of those three dire tigers? Knowing all of you are level 5, and I have a level 20 barbarian helping you. You're going to get killed. I'm not going to kill you unless you fuck up so many times.
But yeah, so I don't believe that you guys are going to cheat. I don't see a reason why you would cheat. So I have no issue if you guys choose to roll in Roll20 or on D&D Beyond or with physical dice in front of you. It's whatever. Like, half the time you guys think it's funny when somebody eats shit down the fucking set of stairs and falls in a big basket of fucking bananas. It gets a good laugh out of the whole fucking table. Even the one who fucked up, they're like, that's funny. Yeah, I would fall on a fucking pile of bananas and get squished underneath it. Okay. Stuff like that. So, like, half the time you guys sometimes players want to fail more than succeed because they think it's hilarious, and that's where they get their good time. To each their own. But, this is one of those things where it's like, if you guys were wanting to do that, I'm checking to make sure that they're not still set to GM. Okay. That they, if you wanted to do a role that only I could see, you can also, send me private messages in Roll20. I think what's the / command? Whisper a player or character /W name, and then the message /WGM message. Okay, yeah. So essentially, if you did /W and then typed in the person's name, Steve, if that's their name in the account, and then you do a message, it would send them a whisper. And if you did /WGM, it would send it to the GM. Now, also, we use Discord, so we can easily send private messages to each other at any time as much as we wish. Or use it for what it's truly for, memes. Like when we're in the middle of playing the game and we get shit like this going on and this shit going on. Somebody links this when shit's getting really bad. Oh my god, they killed Kenny. Or when we're going down in the sewers and somebody's posting shit like this. We're getting chased by dinosaurs because somebody was like, well, I can't summon spider monkeys, but I can summon a T-Rex. Only the most important things is what Discord is used for. Yeah, that's how this character sheet was made. Obviously, like I said, if I didn't have it in Compendium, it would have to be done manually. And usually when I'm doing something manually, I pull out a monster manual, open it up, find their stats. Find their stats. And then, I'll sit here with it in front of me, and I'll just be like, okay, it's got 16 strength. It's got death. And then when it comes to this shit, because I'm a lazy asshole, I don't want to type out their long description of what faultless tracker means. So instead what I do is I come over here to Google, and I'll go D&D 5e Invisible Stalker. I'm like, oh, look at that. Invisible Stalker. Go here. Look at that. And then I got the stats right here. Even though I have them in the book right there, I don't need to know what the stats are. This is not what this is for. This is where I can do this.
Copy-paste.
Copy-paste.
Yeah. Your best friend sometimes.
No, because I do that all the time because I don't have the monster manual for Pathfinder.
I can do that. I forgot that I had just copied that big paragraph instead of the name. That's what we get with just our basic
or magic cards.
I mean, yeah. Usually I start with just the name of the monster, and then I'll narrow and change my focus. Like if I wanted something different than what I got, like I kind of like this. This actually looks really cool. This is the Invisible Stalker artwork from 3rd edition, and I believe this is from the current edition of 5th edition. Oh, that's Beauregard for some reason. That's from Critical Role. Somebody did an artwork of this, but I don't know why this came up with a search for.
I thought it was from Avatar for a half second.
No, that's Marisha Ray's character Beauregard, or just Beau, her monk from their 2nd campaign. Yeah. She's reaching out. There was a moment in their campaign where there was this weird lightning crystal that she reached out to touch for one reason or another.
Viewers have to go to the bathroom,
so. But yeah, I'll just kind of come through here and I'll look at some stuff and I'll see what we can find. I kind of like this image. This image looks kind of cool. I think I'll take this one. Open link and there it is. Save image as D&D monster elementals. Do I want to put another? Yeah, let's put another. Get rid of that underscore. I always like to set my images as PNGs because it's easier for me. Especially because this one is trying to save it as a web image, which is not helpful at all. And save that. All things D&D. This is a transparent background. It's literally just transparent. It's a transparent canvas. I use it as a template. I have a tool called 3D Paint because I'm about to show you what I'm about to do that image. This is just a template that I use. I was just getting that up for when I went over here because I was already right there. Because I'm about to try and create a invisible background for it and kind of pull it out of here. Now, I can tell you from experience, this is going to be very difficult due to what the image is.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me try a different image. One that I have not extracted already. Let's use this T-Rex here as a more example of how it works. Let's zoom in some. It's kind of a tiny image. But I have this thing right here called Magic Select. Click on that. Then let's say I don't want the whole body. I can crop out part of the image or whatnot. Try to erase some of the T-Rex's head. Well, I want the head to stay, but I don't want this background. So we go to remove. Boop. And I want those. I want them teeth to be in there. I'm not being super precise. I'm just showing you how this works. If I actually wanted to do this, it would matter. Then click done. Now I have this little T-Rex head. Then I would take this. I would cut. Go here, then paste, and then I would go menu, save as, and then I would save it as whatever it is. Usually I would overwrite whatever its previous image was. And then that's where I would get, I closed that, didn't I? Fuck. But that's where I get images like, nope. Images like this, where it's just the creature by itself. And then I would take that image into Roll20, and then I would upload the image into the sheet, and then I would grab the sheet, drop it here, make a token out of it. But that's how I get this to look like this.
Not like square.
Not have the background. Because this image also took a little bit harder because it's a skeleton, so it's got like space between its ribs. And I actually pulled the image in my thing here. Undid. Skeletons. Oh, wait. Yes, it is. Here's one you guys have seen before. This is a Minotaur skeleton. As you can see, there's little spaces between the ribs where you can see the background of the white. When I cut this image out to use as a token, I had to, during the Magic Select, I had to zoom in here and erase every tiny little spot. Otherwise, it would look dumb. And sometimes, the Magic Select has an annoying habit where it's like, okay, remove this white spot, and it'll remove like this chunk of the bone. Now I got to re-add that bone. And now I'll remove this, and it'll remove this chunk of the bone. And I got to re-add that bone. Depending on what the image is. Some images is easier than others. Because some of them have a lot of express detail. Or some of them...
fading out and hard to see exactly where it ends.
Some of them are like this white. Where, you got your pale white hair or pale white skin. Or... my vampires. Like this bitch I just recently did. Her face and hand is almost this same shade of white as the background that she was on. So when I was erasing the background, I kept trying to erase like her forehead and her hands. So I had to keep adding those constantly. So some images are more difficult than others. Like she used to have some like frill nonsense down here at the bottom of her fucking dress, but I cut that out because I got tired of fighting with it. And the frills on her arms still has the white background behind it because after painstakingly trying to erase it over hours, I finally got tired of it and was like, you know what? It's fine. I don't care anymore. Which is why when you guys eventually do see that image, because this is an actual image of a character I'm going to be using in the near future of your game, so I probably shouldn't have showed you, but it's not a big deal. Her sleeve frills will still have that little white in the background because after a while I got tired of trying to remove it because it was super hard. Because like it's a very tiny space where I have to zoom so far in that I start to see the pixels of the image, And then when I'm zoomed that far in, I can't tell what is the white background or the slightly grayish color of her frill because they're like semi-translucent. So like they're not solid red pixels. They're like slightly light pixels. Gray or slightly off-white. And then it becomes impossible. And, after a while I got tired of trying to go pick each individual pixel by pixel. Because, I got a fucking life. I got other shit to do. I don't have time for that.
Cut it off.
Yeah, I was like, fuck it, it's good enough. It's good enough. Yeah. She has all 5 fingers on her hand and her forehead's there. It's good enough. Then I got images like this, where it doesn't have a white background. This is another image I'll be using in the near future for your game. This one I did not bother editing because the closer to color matching of shade between the creature I want and its background, the harder it is to do because when you do the remove tool, it looks at, okay, pixels of that color tone, gone. And then when you use the add tool, it goes, these specific pixels stay. So sometimes it will figure out like, okay, this is the image you want, right? And it won't cut anything out that I want to keep. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, hold on, I want you to add this thing or this thing. It'll be like, okay, cool. But sometimes it gets confused about what is foreground, what is background. And I would only worry about this if this was like just plain white or just a solid blank ass color. Because that's annoying. I don't like that. But because she has this cool like arc behind her, the original image of this was actually slightly bigger. I just kind of cropped it down to just above her head. I didn't want to crop the edges too much because I didn't want it to be too portrait. Because then when I tried to put it as an image and squared it, it would go, it would like accordion her down. So I kind of kept it's still portrait, obviously, but I kept the edges a little bit wide so that when it went to full perfect square, it didn't make her look like a weird dwarf by according her down, but keeping the width proportions right. So she would have been like, and it would look a little weird. It would look weird. Because if the edges are too thin, they get stretched out. But if the edges are too wide, they get scrunched down. So it would have if her image is squared like this, it would go like this. So like she'd get scrunched down, but stretched out. And I wouldn't want that. But like I said, this kind of image, because of all the detail behind her, I was like, I already know that's going to be a pain in the ass, and it's not worth it. And besides, it still looks neat. It's good enough. But assholes like this motherfucker who I haven't done yet, because I have no intention of using this token anytime soon, or this image, this would all need to go. This is the vampire from the Monster Manual 5e, by the way. These other vampires, one of which you may recognize from the last time you guys were in the creepy, spooky, haunted docks. This image I had for a long while before I used it. And the reason why I had it was because I don't remember what I was searching for. I was looking up other stuff. And I came across this image of like a vampire in she's got this like little like sailor captain coat thing. And I'm like, that looks really fucking cool. I like that image. I don't know when I'm going to use it, but I'm going to go ahead and grab that and put it in my files for later in case I do have an opportunity to use it. And then when I was looking at that particular encounter, I going, I want to put some ghouls in here, but I need at least someone in this that isn't just a basic ass ghoul. Because ghouls on their own were not much of a challenge for your capabilities at that time, as I'm sure you remember. So I put a vampire spawn, and that's what I use this for. Because I remembered, I have a cool vampire sailor-looking woman with this cool, like, machete-like blade, which is why I made that a short sword. No, I made it a scimitar. Sorry. And to beef her up a little bit, I gave her that scimitar of speed, so she had a cool magic item that would both give her a little bit of extra capability against you guys, because a vampire spawn all on its own was not that much of a challenge. So I had to give it a little bit of extra magic stuff, and then when you guys killed her, you got a cool +2 magic scimitar that can do 2 attacks, and it can do an extra attack as a bonus action. What's this? Oh, okay. That's another one I haven't read the background. Because you can kind of tell which one has the transparent backgrounds based on the big black void behind them before I click on it. So when I click on it, that void turns white. But yeah, that's what I do. Now, as we've established, as you can see, it's very gray, smoky-like creature. So we all know this is going to be a pain in the ass. Other things that are also a pain in the ass, anytime some motherfucker has a goddamn bow, the bowstring is the bane of my existence. Let me get my humans here. Where are you? I have a whole folder just for here. It is Rangers, Hunters, and Archers. So, like, you may or may not recognize this gentleman. This is one of the mercenaries that you... Oh, never mind. No, you probably never even saw the tokens of the mercenaries on the Arabella because you guys never fought them because you neutralized it and they surrendered. This was one of the mercenaries. This was an archer. If we zoom in really close, you'll notice there's something odd about that bowstring. It's because that's not from the original image. The original image had a very difficult time keeping the bowstring there.
I would say you drew that
so I had to
bowstring
draw
on there.
I used a paint tool. Let's see, you guys haven't seen this image yet, but that bowstring wasn't too bad. But sometimes the issue is it will either cut the bowstring out, and then it looks like they're holding a stick, which looks dumb, or when I tell it to add it, it will sometimes add like the 1 or 2 pixels on either side of the very pixel thin line. So then it looks like there's these weird white blocks next to the string just floating in the air. But sometimes we get lucky in guards. There it is. This guy. Sometimes we get lucky and I'll get someone like this dude. You can see that's a very thick bowstring. It's very much easier to get that to not cut out.
Yeah, I think I have it in my Roll20 account with the background still on though.
Yeah, but yeah, you can see it. There's a little bit of the background still in there, but it's not a big deal because you only see it when I zoom super far in. If you're looking at it like this, no one's ever going to notice that, so I don't worry about that level of detail. But like, it still tried to cut it out, but when I told it to re-add it, it wasn't too difficult. Arrows also are sometimes a pain in the ass because got the little white feathers that you don't want to accidentally remove, but you want to remove the white space here and here and here. This image was a little bit easier than most archers because it's not heavy on detail. So like, there's still large white chunks here that's easier to remove. It's not like it's not like this motherfucker. As you can see, I don't remember how much was here originally, but some of what was here is no longer here because it was just difficult. Sometimes parts of an image will get lost, either because the detail of them is so small or thin that it's hard to get it to add that without pulling the background into. So sometimes it gets cut off. Like there are some. Let's see. There are some characters. Sometimes there will be an image of a person that has like a lapel or some kind of like tassel or some kind of frill on the very edges of whatever they're wearing that look cool, but there's the object in of itself is super thin, such as. Trying to find someone that I haven't already removed it from. Oh. But yeah, here we go. Like something like this. This thing on his knee. Odds are, if I were to do what I normally do to this image, this part will get chopped off because it looks like some kind of like tassel or something. Oh no, I think it's the end of his quiver here, possibly. Odds are that's going to get chopped off. Although this isn't so thin that I can't easily keep that there, so I could probably keep that. But say if it's like super, super thin, like we're talking like this thin of like a tassel hanging off of like my shoulder or something like that. Or like some kind of like leather thong tie or something like that. Odds are that's going to get chopped off because it's so small, it's difficult to keep in there. Like her with her damn bowstring. It's hard to keep in there. Or like this part. If I were to do it, this like part of her cloak might get chopped off. Now, most of the time it's not a big deal. Sometimes it is. Usually depends on exactly what is being removed. So sometimes things will get lost. Like sometimes a character will, or an image will have like a particular thing in their hairstyle. Like some kind of weird like fucking cowlick or some kind of like hair strand off to the side. And I'll be doing it and like that little strand will get cut off. Because it's not such a big deal that it has to fucking be there. God forbid. But generally, it really just boils down to what matters. Like this bitch. I know that if I do this image, these candles, one moment, these little candles on her head crown thing will probably be quite difficult to maintain. But I like them enough to I would probably work on trying to keep them. Or yeah, like he's got a lot of these little like things on the side of his like fur cloak thing. A lot of that will probably get lost, but overall, not a big deal. Or these little boot tie tassel things. And I'm pretty much still stalling because I just don't want to fight with this fucking image. There, I got that back up. But yeah, I can already tell you this is gonna be a pain in the ass. Let's see how much it takes out just from the start. Not too bad. Add tool here. Oops. Well, actually, this isn't too bad. It also helps that it's pretty much a smoke monster, so it's not like having some extra whiteness there is going to be a big deal.
Wait, what tool are you using?
No, I'll do that. Also, I'd probably keep it like just like that. It actually didn't take as long as I thought it was. But as you can see, some of it was a little left behind, but it's fine. But we have this. I wonder. What I may or may not do is I may. Actually, no, I do. I might probably put like some extra holes in it, just so it looks all wispy and smoky instead of solid. So let me re-add the rest of its head. Because invisible stalkers, technically, you can't even see them because they are literally invisible. They are air. That being said, I still need some kind of figure of some kind. Yeah, see, I'll probably do it more like that. I still need some kind of figure representation image thing. Yeah, there we go. Put a couple little holes there. Oh, no, I won't do that. Yeah. So I'd probably do something like that here and there. That way it looks like a smoky monster thing. Looks less solid, more wispy and smoky. Let me look at that original picture real quick. Wait, no, I saw it over here. Okay. Yeah. I want to keep its other hand. Okay, no, I can. Oh, okay, no, it is there. It was just a little hard to tell. Here, remove this chunk right here. There we go. Now we can see that it's a hand there. That looks a little bit better. So this is literally what I do. Like I'll do stuff like this to try and make it look interesting. I think it's good enough. And now we got this. And then I'll cut, paste, menu, save as, image, elementals, other, invisible stalker, overwrite, yes. And then I won't resave this, so it stays as my template. And now I'll just close all that. Now we go over here, edit, click to upload. Now it's on it. This is an elemental. Sometimes it will randomly pick a section of my files for whatever reason and be like, why are you in here? Save changes. And we hold on this, then we need this stuff. Over here, we drag that token there. Delete that token. No, actually, I usually do this on a map that's easier to see on. Like this one probably. This is a generic map I use. It's literally just a big background of a tundra for if they get into a random encounter. They have like dog sleds and axe beats and stuff like that.
In fact, this is actually my party right here. I use a very different program than one you use. I just forgot which program it was.
Say again?
I use a very different program to cut images than one you use. I just forgot what program it was.
The particular program I use is not the most efficient. I'm sure there's people out there who are better with graphic design than I am that use probably something better like Photoshop or some other program whose name I don't know, and they can do what I want to do in a more efficient manner because they have the technology to do it, the program to do it, because they put extra money in. 3D Paint is literally something that was on the
I didn't spend money on this program, but I don't want to find out my other laptop of Doom to find out which one it is.
Yeah, 3D Paint was just something that was on my computer, and it functioned for what I needed it to do at the time that I had discovered that it was on the computer. I didn't go out and buy it. It was just already there. It's like MS Paint, kind of, which I also have MS Paint on here. But 3D Paint is better for more three-dimensional image stuff.
I think all of us have MS Paint.
But you get my point, though. It was just a thing that was on the computer by default. Yeah, this is actually their party. This is Kiki. They are played by my friend Colleen, who is a celestial warlock, Asimir, which is why she looks super angelic and beautiful. And as an Asimir, she can also fucking transform into a winged person. So we also have a shifting token for her. So when she transforms into her more angelic form. Because that's one of the things that Asimir can do. She's the protector type subrace of Asimir, so she sprouts these radiant wings of light and can do extra radiant damage when she makes attacks. Like I said, this is Howler over here, the Tortol fighter, played by a friend of ours, Mike. He's one of my coworkers. Over here is Amun-Ra. For some reason, it won't let me put his image in front of the XP. It only wants to go behind. This is his tiefling rogue assassin. He's also played by a friend of ours named Mike. We have two mics at my table. Although one of the mics, his name is actually Portuguese, and it's technically pronounced Miguel.
So Mike 1 and Mike 2.
Well, if I need to make sure that only the one who plays Howard is paying attention to me and not the other one, I say Miguel. because he's told me that his technical true name is Miguel, but it's not spelt Miguel because there's no G in it. It's spelt Michael, but it's Portuguese, and that's the way it's pronounced, according to him and what was told to him when he was growing up. But because we live in America and everyone that looks at his name is going to see Michael and not Miguel, he got tired of correcting them and was just like, well, my name is Mike now. And that's how he introduces himself. One's also much more taller than the other one, but the shorter one is a little bit more heftier. So we also call him Big Mike and Tall Mike. This is one of their NPC companions. This is Sonar. He's a mummy. Because there's an adventure, there's one of the things that you can do in Rime of the Frostbane is you go to this elven tomb, this elven ruins as part of one of the quests, and there's this really long, complicated puzzle that the players can figure out and solve. And if they solve it, then they open a sarcophagus that has a mummy inside of it named Sonar. He's a moon elf. He's a mummified moon elf. He's a literal mummy, but he's not evil. He's good. And he actually hangs out with the players until he dies. And he's like a standard mummy out of the monster manual, with the change of his alignment being lawful good or neutral good, something like that, instead of neutral evil, which is what the mummy's standard stat block says. Now, obviously, this does not look like just a basic mummy wrapped in bandages, which is an image I used originally for him, because I have edited him to, instead of him just being a generic CR3 mummy, he is now instead a reborn undead paladin. Because I thought it was more interesting, and God knows they needed the help. Because there's only 3 players.
A reborn undead paladin?
Reborn is a type of template out of Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Reborn being if you're dead, you could, and it's a catch-all term. So it's are you a zombie or a skeleton, or are you a golem who has, a flesh golem, some Frankenstein monster creature who's regained his sentience and is now essentially a construct instead of an undead, to be more precise. Or, are you a revenant that's come back for vengeance? Stuff like that. Because, Ravenloft's got a lot of that gothic horror-esque stuff to it. So, it essentially lets players kind of play someone who has died and then came back from the dead. So, a literal undead. So I kind of use that as the basis because I took him from an NPC and actually made him a full PC. This is not an NPC stat sheet. This is a PC stat sheet, but he is an NPC.
One quick note, if you want to get to NPC stat sheets, is somewhat different. Like in the game, the Pathfinder game I've run, I have to go to options, scroll down to set NPC, or get to my NPC stat sheet. So if you can't find the NPC stat sheet, it's probably a little different than Pathfinder, or in this case, D&D 5e.
For me, one of the shortcuts that I know for control shortcuts to open up a sheet is you already have the token in front of you. Hold down the shift key, double left click. Brings up the sheet.
And there you go.
And if you double left click on them without holding shift, you get their token. And then you can also take their sheet. If you want to keep this sheet, you can... What have you done to this dog? But, actually, no, you're not wearing clothes. Give me a minute. I need to show this to my friends. Gentlemen, look at what my mother has done to our dog.
She's getting ready for riding season.
This is my dog, Minnie.
Poor dog. Congratulations, dog. Congratulations, dog. You're YouTube famous.
We gotta get a bigger hat. The hat's smaller than we thought. Her head's bigger than we thought.
Hi, Shiva.
But now she can go riding on the motorcycle and lawnmower and not get stuck in her eyeballs.
That is true. The sunglasses do actually serve a purpose, gentlemen. My mother isn't torturing the dog, but the hat just adds to the ensemble. But she's right. The hat is a little small because she has a bigger head than that. But what I was about to say is you can also take it. You can move this around and whatnot. But you can also, if you go up here where you can click and move it, if you double click, left click on that, you can minimize it, put this off to the side and be like, oh, darn, I don't know, what was my stats again? And you double left click on it again, pull it up, double left click, minimize it, double left click, bring it back up. You can also click on this little button right here, and you can pop this out as a separate window. And you can just minimize that, come back down here and pull it back up whenever you need it. And then you just close that as you see fit. Yeah, and these are their axe beats. Because they didn't want sled dogs, they wanted axe beats because they're far more efficient. They were made to run across the terrain because they have these big like snowshoe like feet. They have really big, wide toed feet that they can go across snow easily. And they also can lift and carry a lot more things. There's Howard over here. He's a turtle. The dude weighs like a stupid amount. Let's see, dude. I think I remember, but okay, never mind. We didn't write it down. I think he weighs like 200 or 300 fucking pounds because he has a big turtle shell on his back. Like turtles are not small or light by any definition whatsoever. So dogs, like what some of their allies back here. This is another NPC that's joined them because it's part of the quest line of Rime of the Frost Maiden. And she has sled dogs with like some kobolds. These are Icewind kobolds. I want you to know, finding a kobold in a winter coat was not easy. Most kobolds don't wear clothes of images that I found. But I wanted one that didn't look like I'm just hanging out in the fucking snow with a loincloth on, because that's insane. And then she also has some zombies, so she's a necromancer. There's zombie kobolds. Those fed dogs. No, these aren't in their proper things here. They're not in the squares the correct way. No. Doesn't matter. It's fine. But yeah. They found that for one axe beak, they can have about the same drag capability of like a team of sled dogs. So this is like what they have. Oh, and they also have this other NPC, Jothra, she's a dwarf. She uses the scout stat block. She uses a generic NPC stat block. They hired her as a guide because none of them had survival or nature skills whatsoever. And that's what Jothra, this NPC, was for. She works with another guy who runs a general store or like a mountain survival general store, stuff like that. And she hires out her services as a guide. So if you wanted to go somewhere in Icewind Dale and had no survival skills at all, you could hire her as a hireling, which is a thing in D&D, to do it for you. But odds are, depending on certain circumstances, I'll probably do what I did to Sonar and turn her into like a full PC ranger. Probably make her a Gloomstalker. Sonar is a Oath of the Watcher because I liked the idea of him being a Oath of the Watcher because it was a different type of thing. Plus, they also use it as a Watchman because Sonar doesn't sleep because he's undead. So like when they first got him, they would like leave him they would leave him in like their sled with all their stuff, and he would just sit there with it. And if somebody came over and messed with it, he would just grab them and hold them until the party came back and were like, he was trying to rob you. Should I kill him? And then he'll try to squeeze to the death. Or like during night, instead of setting a night watch, they just have Sonar watch. Now, that being said, Sonar's perception is awful. It's always been awful. Because he doesn't have a super great wisdom. But, still. And yeah, this is what they got. But we're going to use this map to do the token because it lets me see easier. We got our little invisible stalker. So yeah. I was just looking at it, seeing if it was what I wanted. Pull up this. So I can get its stats. Double left click. You get this up. Now, if you're making a token that you plan on using as a generic monster, you don't want to play with these little drop-down bar things here. By contrast, Sonar here is a completely unique creature. There are no other people that use his stat sheet. So usually you have the green bar, passive wisdom. Blue bar, armor class. Red bar, hit points. You could set these little drop-down menus, HP, AC, passive wisdom, as things here. Which, what that means is, no matter what map this token is on, even on a completely different map, whatever value his hit points are the value his hit points are. Because in fact, he didn't take this damage on this map. He took this damage on this map. Because this is where they are right now. This is what they're dealing with. They're in Sunblight, which is this dwarven fortress. Sorry, Dwergar fortress, to be more precise. This is that Quaggoth Den I was telling you about, where I had all those little bone piles, and those green squares are like mossy, are like patches of like beds of moss that they've used to create a bedding so they can sleep on it. But yeah, if I were to adjust his hit points on this image, say, let's see, it says 49, let's make it 48. And go back to this map. Hit points are 48 now. Because all of the images are linked. As well as if I were to change that on his character sheet. So if I were to change his armor class on this sheet right here, it would change it on the token too. Because that value is linked to what's value is written here. So I do the same thing to all of your tokens too. And like I was saying, if they're a completely unique creature that it is them and only them, there's not like 50 of them, that works great. This creature, obviously, just in the encounter that it's going to be used, is going to have 2 of them. So obviously I leave these blank. Because otherwise, if I were to say, make this HP, every time I would change the value on one invisible stalker, it would change on the other invisible stalker too. And they have to be separate entities. So I leave that alone. But I still put the number in it regardless. Fuck me, it has over 100 hit points? That's going to suck for those guys. Because they're invisible. Fucking super resistant to, what is it? Damage resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical attacks. Immune to poison. Immune to exhaustion, grapple, paralyzed, petrified, poison, prone, restrained, unconscious. And they gotta fight 2 of these things? And they're permanently invisible? That's gonna suck for them. But hey, it's not my job to solve your problems. Armor class is only 14 though, so that's good. Passive perception. See, their perception bonus is a +8, which means his passive is 18. Pretty perceptive. Then you can hover over these and get player permissions. It's like, do you want them to see or edit things? Such as its name. Do you want it to be able to see its name? Do you want to be able to edit it? You can also check this box on and off. If it's unchecked, then this little thing under here that shows its name, Invisible Stalker, won't appear. But I usually like to leave that checked because I like to know the name of the creature of the token, especially I can show it off. Player permissions here. Can they see it? Can they edit it? Is it visible to editors or everyone? I usually leave these blank for monsters because you don't need to know what its armor class is or how many hit points it has. Because just save that real quick. I can see the hit bar of my monsters. You guys can't unless I set it to where you can, which is what these things are. If I set it to see, then you'd be able to see it. If I set it to visible to everyone, it would set it to visible to everyone that is in the game. If I have it set to visible to editors, only the people who can edit it could see it. Now, being able to see only means that you guys will be able to see that red bar, and you would see that red bar move tick downward. But you wouldn't be able to see the numbers. I would have to set it I would have to set this part right here, text overlay. Right now it's only visible to editors, which means I'm the editor of this token. Only I can see it. If I were to set it to visible to everyone right there, then you guys would be able to see the text. So you'd actually see the exact number of hit points, not just its percentage of hit bar modes. And then if I set it to edit, that means you guys could subtract hit points or add hit points to it, which honestly isn't too bad of an idea. I could be like, how much damage, instead of me constantly asking and having to edit myself, you could be like, I do 5 damage. And you click on it, just like you subtract hit points from your token, you just click on it and go, -5. But like I said, I usually use that blank so you guys don't know how much damage you've truly done to something. And then we got auras down here. Same thing. You can set it to where you can edit the aura, see the aura, player permission stuff, and whatnot. And then you can change what color it is. Is it a circle or a square? How much of a radius of footage is it? Then you got dynamic lighting. You could set whether or not it has vision, whether or not it has dark vision or night vision as it's set in here. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break as I'm going to go to the restroom real quick. You guys just go ahead and stew on that for a minute, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you some more stuff.
Ooh. Actually, to show you guys what I'm talking about earlier, let me just reduce this real quick. Reduce the my game. And let's say I want to make a character seat on my end. It's mostly the same steps, but Let me use. Perfect. Since it hasn't been fully created yet. Go characters. Oh wait, it's already done.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Because I need to kind of sit up a little bit. I'll lean on my desk here.
Right.
So, as I was saying, we come over here. Let's see, does this thing have dark vision? Yes, it does. It has dark vision. Turn that on. 60 feet.
Create EPC, and there we go. Now back to your regular scheduled thingy.
Just gotta check, make sure I got everything in here. Any questions so far, gentlemen?
No, I've just finished showing how to do it on Pathfinder. Well, just to switch to a regular sheet to an NPC. But yeah.
I wouldn't think that the mechanics of Roll20 would be that different from Pathfinder.
Yeah, but in Pathfinder, you have to actually go to the option. You have to go to the options on character sheet and then just scroll out to click NPC.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly. But everything else is pretty much the same.
I'm pretty sure I can do that with a PC sheet too. Got my gear thing here. Yeah, I can click this little checkbox to make it an NPC.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Stalker is done almost. Come here to edit. There's a thing called default token. It says optional. You select the token, hit use selected token, and now the next time I click and drag this off of here onto the map, it will bring that exact same token we just got done editing, rather than some image of it that is unedited. And let's say this one is at 50 hit points, or to click and drag a new one on it, it would be at whatever hit points it was when I made it a default token. Now for the part that I'm sure some people really want to see, macros. First things first, what I always do first is I deal with this initiative thing, which, over here to abilities and attributes, I usually start at the very bottom and work my way up. I got to find initiative. Because initiative is never at the top. There it is. Grab these little 3 lines right here, the little box, you click and hold on to that. Scroll up. I do this for my own sanity, as it makes my life easier. And you just drag it up to the top, because I'm a crazy man. I don't use dexterity. I use intelligence for initiative. See, he has 0 intelligence. I also like to put the total of your intelligence as a decimal point for tie breaking. So 0.10 is plus 0 to initiative with a 10 intelligence. So that's why that comes out like that. That way when I hit initiative right here, it'll do that. Then I click on the text box. I hit up on the up arrow key. I click on the up arrow key to bring up this nonsense. I believe I've showed this to you guys once before.
Yep.
But then you just click, highlight all that, Control C, then I just backspace to delete that. Over here, click on this little add button over here for abilities. Show. I always check this box, show as token action. I don't like to show it in my macro bar. And you click this little thing to edit it. Click in here, Control V to paste it. Then you give the macro a name, like initiative. You hit this little checkbox. Now you have a macro. So that, yeah, right there. And then let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. And do all this. And then I do this for each thing. It's multi-attack. Up on the arrow key. Copy. Delete. Paste. That one. Slam. attack. I had to put the word slam or the word attack behind things like longsword attack, slam attack, because it makes it easier for me to find its actual attack because I have the word attack next to it. That's just a thing that I do. Everyone has their own particular taste on how they want to design their macros and make them easy to see and what arrangement they want to do. It's all shooter's preference. Sometimes I make macros of things that you don't really need a macro of, but I make the macro of them for my own personal reasons. Because it helps me keep track of things. It helps me keep track of things. And you may notice I did the word faultless and tracker as 2 separate words. That's because when you do spaces in these windows here, they like to put this weird hyphen there. And if I were to do it like, while you can do both of it like this, one of the things I've noticed is, see, when I hit the space bar, it created this hyphen, but it removed that space because the hyphen wasn't there. Well, now let's say I want to come over here and try to put a space there instead. Well, it won't work because it doesn't recognize that hyphen there. And let's say let's say we did it like this. And then we put some other letters and some other letters. If I wanted to come over here and then add another layer or other letters, it starts to, if I wanted to put another space right here, it would start deleting the letters over here. It wouldn't create a space. It starts deleting letters over here. So, yeah, make sure when you mess with it enough times, you'll start to notice the same things I notice, which is why I just let it put the hyphen there because it makes it easier. And then you can, just like how you can move these values around, because these are all your values, like what your sleight of hand is, and it has its formula for like where on the sheet it goes to get those numbers. I don't mess with any of this because the way it is the way it is. It's fine. It doesn't need to be done. Nothing of these need to really be changed, at least not in my opinion. The way I do things may not be the best way or most efficient way or the only way. There may be other ways that other people may know or discover on their own. This is just the ways I do things that I've learned through my own trial and error. But so like the only value over here I mess with is initiative. But like I said, you can hit this little X button, it will delete it. But you can grab this and move it around. Because of the way I do it, when you click on this, I go from right to left, so I like initiative right here at the very far right, followed by attacks or multi-attacks or special abilities. Some people may want initiative over here instead. Speaking of which, with macro commands, unless you want them to be alphabetized, my recommendation would be to come over. See this little checkbox right here under personalization and display, alphabetically sort token actions. Unless you want them to be alphabetized, uncheck that box. Otherwise, no matter what order you put them in here, they will always be in alphabetical order up here. And I'm kind of particular about what I like to put my macros. So when I click on it, I want the first one to be initiative, second one to be their attacks, and then if they have a multi-attack, I usually put it just behind the attacks. So I'd be like, oh, how many attacks does it have? Okay, it gets 2 slam attacks. Okay, click, slam. Or, oh, what does it mean by invisibility? Oh, it means it's invisible. What's Faultless Tracker do again? Okay, yeah, it always knows where it's tracking. Stuff like that. That's just the way I do it. I may or may not swap Faultless Tracker invisibility, but in the in its order, I may put invisibility over here, or I might keep it here. It's one of those things where that becomes to personal taste of mine that may or may not change. But I just have these in here not because I absolutely have to have the macro there. It's just that I want to have it as a reminder in case I forget that, oh yeah, it's permanently invisible. So I don't have to fucking find it on the sheet. Like I did a macro on Sonar over here. Big bold letters, do not forget. What am I not supposed to forget? The fact that he has resistances that I always fucking forget. Because as a mummy, he's resistant to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing or non-magical attacks. I forget that a lot. So I made a macro that says in big bold letters, don't forget, dumbass. I left that last part off because it was too much work. It was too much text, so I just kept it with do not forget and put an exclamation point on it. And I have it in all caps so that when I'm looking at his things here, I'll be like, oh, do not forget. What not forget? Right, his resistances. He's also got like other stuff in there that he's resistant, immune, vulnerable to, and stuff like that. As a reborn, technically he wouldn't keep most of this, but he's technically more homebrewed. He's not following, because he's an NPC, he's not following the most strictest of rules. If this was a player character, he wouldn't be resistant to piercing, bludgeoning, and slashing damage. He would gain resistance to poison damage and get advantage against saves against poison, much like the dwarven racial traits have. And they would also get some other stuff that the reborn gets, because like reborn get advantage on death saving throws, which is pretty cool. Because they're already essentially dead, they don't die as easily. And I am very impressed that you know how to use chopsticks, Japan. I don't have the hand dexterity to really fucking make those things work for me.
Dude, that's used chopsticks in like, damn, almost like 20 years.
But yeah, so he's not technically following the strictest of technical rules, but you know, also by technicality, reborn count as humanoids, not undead. The reason being is that it's a template that you could put onto a PC character, so a player could be like, oh, I'm a person who died and then came back, and I still have this fucking scar across my neck for when somebody slit my throat and let me bleed out to death. But there's a lot of spells that have different effects on you depending on what your creature type is, such as Cure Wounds does not work on undead. If they are undead, you cannot use Cure Wounds on them, which makes it a little bit more complicated if you're a player and you can't. Suddenly, somebody can cast Cure Wounds on you. Or Turn Undead affects only undead. Well, that's a bit of a problem if your cleric casts Turn Undead next to the wizard who also is a reborn undead creature. That being said, I think that's bullshit. I would absolutely let Turn Undead fucking turn your goddamn wizard if the cleric did Turn Undead next to him, because that's funny.
Yeah, to GM, not to the player.
No, to the player, absolutely. I'd be like, hey, cleric, you turn undead? Cool. Wizard, saving throw. Wait, why does he have to make a saving throw? Well, because he's undead. Oh, no! But I would also let Cure Wounds work on you. Just like I did with Sonar. I waived the cannot use on undead because he's essentially a Dungeon Master PC. Although I don't really play him in that fashion. I play him like he's an NPC and he's there to help the players. Because he's very helpful. And he has his own thoughts and opinions just like your NPCs in your game does. But they do what you want them to do for the most part. The only difference is I run Sonar, whereas you guys run like Bola, your retainers, because that's what they were designed for. But they didn't need a retainer. They needed another party member because there's only 3 in their group. That's not a lot of people. You guys have 4 people plus retainers, which work just fine. They only have 3 people. So they actually needed the extra meat. They actually needed someone who had more capabilities than just a basic retainer could provide, or the retainer rules. And he started out as a standard NPC using a standard NPC block, and then eventually he evolved and upgraded into a level 5 paladin, because that's what level their range they're at right now. They're all level 5. But, what was I saying? Right. But yeah, so like, there's a few tweaks I made because it fit more to my taste with the way I wanted to use the reborn racial ancestry thing from Van Richten's. And I only did that just for him because I felt like it, because I felt it was appropriate. Besides, in a way, it actually made him a lot stronger, which makes him a lot more helpful to the party, because God knows they need it. Because it means he takes half damage against most weapon attacks. So his 55 hit points goes a lot farther when he takes half damage on every time you hit him with a sword. You know, when Spencer remembers that he's supposed to take half damage to slashing, non-magical slashing damage, and then does that, I have forgotten multiple times. It's quite annoying. In fact, he almost died because I forgot for a whole fight that he was resistant to like half the damage he was taking. Because he was taking both cold and slashing. Although I did recently add cold resistance to his thing for one reason or another, I think. Didn't I? No, I did not. Why not? Oh, we'll work it out another time. But regardless, though, that's that token, and that's how I make macros. Because I found those to be the easiest. Now, there's like YouTube tutorials you guys can go and like hunt down, and they can go through much more complex macro designing, where like they can get it to look not in this particular format, because this is the format. The macros make this format because that's what the sheet will do if I click on the stuff in here. And then I just copy and paste those formulas. There are tutorials out there that can that shows how you can get it to do like a different font, a different color, a different format layout of it. There's one I saw where it was like multiple macros within a macro, where I think I should probably track this one down and actually start doing it because it'd make my life a lot easier, I'm sure, if I started doing this on some of my NPCs. Where he made a macro that allowed you to roll any of your saving throws with the push of a single button. It was like he made a macro that was like saves, and then when he clicked on it, it gave him a query of like, do you want it to be a strength save, a dex save, or do you want a wisdom save? And then you select in this little thing, and then it will roll the value of what your saving throw was for whatever you selected. Similar to like when I set it to here, where like right now, Howard here has Smith tools, but proficiency I have it as a question mark, and attribute I have it as attribute I have it as a query. So when I click on Smith tools, it goes, what attribute are you using? Because tool proficiencies are based off of what you're trying to do with them, and if you're proficient, you can add your proficiency bonus plus whatever stat you're utilizing. Say he's doing, let's use strength. Let's say he's trying to beat some metal into shape. Well, that sounds like a strength check to me. But because he's proficient in Smith tools, he can use that, and then we have this little drop-down box, and we click on strength, and we hit submit. It would roll Smith tools. Mouse over here, and you get his proficiency plus his strength. Yeah, it rolled super great. Got a 2 and a 1. Well, let's say, okay, we're trying to add some fancy filigree to it. Put a cool design in it. That sounds like you need some more dex on that. So dex, submit. I don't even roll a lot better. But his dex is super great. He has a plus 0 to dex. But he still gets his proficiency. But yeah, he essentially created like a saving throw macro to where it did something like that, which sounds really cool. And I might track down that video and rewatch it again, because at the time I didn't need to know how to do complex macros. I just need to know how to make a basic fucking macro for an attack roll and initiative rolls and stuff like that. But I pretty much mastered basic macros at this point. I might go aim for more complex macros in the future. So I might track down that video again and when I do, I might send it to you guys, and you guys can take a look at it as you see fit, if you want. But yeah, that's it. And then for journals, it can be edited and controlled by. I used to put my own name on this, but now I just leave it blank because I've discovered that I don't need to make it to where I have my name in that, as long as I'm the Dungeon Master. That only matters if I was the Dungeon Master. And because of my home game...
Hopefully it's being sent in Discord is the correct one.
That actually looks like the video I was watching. That one looks like he was doing something similar to like that with like healing potions or whatever.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, it essentially boiled down to the same principle though. It's like this is how you make a macro within a macro, or you have a macro rolling macro that you can then roll something else, and so on and so forth. Like it's like a rolling repeatable macro thing or something like that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try that.
It's far more complex.
I'm going to have to try that with your favorite bartender, Jim Pan, as soon as we finish this.
But yeah, one of the things that I discovered when I was doing my home games, what I used to do before everybody started bringing their own laptops and or tablets to the game, was I had a big monitor, which was essentially my living room TV, that I would connect to my laptop as like a second monitor. And I would have one window that was for my view, and then for the player view, I would project up onto the screen. So like they would see the dungeon. I would be logged into both accounts, but I would have one window logged in with me logged in as a player, and then one is me as a dungeon master. So you'd only see what player view should show. Because even though I am also running it as the dungeon master, I'm logged in as a player, not as a dungeon master, because Roll20 is capable of making the distinction between the two things. So they could see the map without seeing the things that I didn't want them to see yet, or that only the dungeon master should see. But I discovered when I started playing more with dynamic lighting that if it's set to can be edited and controlled by, whoever has their name there also gets to see what that token sees. Which meant that while I was logged in as a player, I could still see not only where the monsters were, but what the monsters could see. And obviously that's not great when you don't want your players, when you're using that as the main group screen, and the players can see where all the monsters are because I have it set to be able to be edited by me. But when I leave that blank, I can still, of course, control and edit this fucking token as much as I damn well please as the Dungeon Master. But I can't do it if I was logged in as a player. Which means I also won't be able to see its sight lines, which was the point. So I've long stopped doing it that way. But if this was, say, a player's monster they summon or whatever, like fucking Kiri and his fucking 30-odd animals that he likes to summon, I would come in here and I'd set it to, let's say, Menacing Hera summoned a fucking Invisible Stalker. I would put him to be able to edit and control it. I'd also make sure he could find it in his fucking journal, which is, all this over here. I have an extensive journal as the Dungeon Master because I also have all the monsters. Most players are only going to have what I place into their journals, which will usually be their character sheet and handouts that I have provided to them.
Pretty much like that to switch some.
Like this one. This little blue dot indicates that I have it set to in all players' journals.
Pretty much like I had to switch the tiger from my control to Kiri's control for that one fight.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah. Some tokens will have a thing down here where you can change its control, but because I have this little drop box, I have it set to represents. This usually gets automatically filled if I had taken this and dragged its image onto the thing and then edited the token before I added it as the default token. This would have a box here for me to play with. But right now it says determined by character settings. It's because I have it set to represent this sheet. This sheet's settings determine whether or not this token can be controlled or edited by someone else. So that's what this little box right here is for. This is just a name. You could literally put anything there and it wouldn't matter. Because there's been many a times where I've put a token in front of you guys that was not named what its character sheet was named. I think. What was one that I did that with? I can't think of one that I've done that recently. I know I've made some that are like that, but I don't want to mention some of those, because you haven't seen those yet, and I don't want you guys to know that surprise just yet. Yeah, I can also change the tint color of the token. So if I wanted this token,
especially Kieran freaking Daniel's gonna watch this for you after I upload.
So if I wanted the token to be more yellow, I can make it more yellow, or teal, or blue. Oops. Transfer. This little gear is also a way you can edit the token. I very rarely click on that to do that. I usually double click, as it's just a habit, because I also shift and double click for the sheet. Speaking of things, over here. This little thing, if you click on that, it gives you all these little things here, folks. Most of you already know that. But you can put little markers on it to denote certain things, like every time Daniel has Nezir cast Hunter's Mark on somebody, I use this little leaf icon. And I use this for when he hexes someone. For stealth and or invisibility. For strength. It just depends on my mood. Red dot to show that they're concentrating. And then we got, our blues, our greens, and our purples for you guys to denote who is controlling which retainer, so we all can see it easily by sight. And if I don't feel like deleting the token, I use this big red X to show that they're dead as fuck.
I think everyone uses the X to show they're dead.
Yeah.
Or at least I do.
And then you can, usually if somebody's unconscious and their hit points are 0, you see these little square things. You can use it to adjust its size. And you can go wacky and crazy about it and shit. Okay. There's this one that's on this long pole right here that you guys can see. And when I mouse over it, you see a little cross. Yep, I can use it to spin them around. So usually when somebody goes unconscious, I do this. I turn the token 90 degrees to make it look like it's on its side, to show that it's prone. And then when you stand up, I just go. Now, that's only useful for the Dungeon Master, because I do not believe as players, not any of you can change the size of a token or rotate it, if I'm not mistaken.
Rotating, not changing the size.
Oh, so you guys can rotate it, but you can't change its size?
Yeah.
Good to know. Oh, yeah. That's how I make tokens and macros. Yeah. I think something's crawling around on my window. We have cats and there's birds and shit like that in the area. So I have an AC unit right there, obviously, as you can see. So it sticks outside the other side of the window, and there's this little lip about this big that birds and cats like to get on through for some reason. Go away! Being rude! And then here,
at least you don't have to deal with my birds or the pigeons that come knock in my window. Open.
This little flag right here. Obviously, this is what you click and drag this from one map to another to change what you want your players to see. But you can also separate it to individuals. If I had more people logged in, I could show it, but I can use my own image for this. There are little icons down here. You click and drag it. You see my little name and icon? Say, this is one of my players. And I only want one player to see because, they're the only motherfucker that walked into the other room. I can drop their view right there, and it will show me who's on that map. So everybody else is over here, but this person is over here, regardless of where I move this ribbon. And if I want to set it back to their moving with the rest of the group, I just click on this one image here, and I bring it over here until you see those little yellow lines, and drop it back into the ribbon to recombine everybody. And that's how that's done. On to shifting tokens. I have several of them already set up, but the little thing right here just before the little gear symbol, and between this between the gear symbol and this little music note, you click on that. Come down here to rollable tables. This is how you make a shifting multi-sided token. You click the little add button. Let's just add a new one down here at the bottom. You get new table. You click on that. You can make it, check this box up and down or whatever to get players can roll from that table, change the name of it, add item, put an image there, name it, add a new one, add it, you can do that. And then you put images on those, then you would click save. I'm not uploading any images onto it right this second, but go ahead and delete that arrow. Let me get here's a were creature. This is a lycanthrope. This is a Goliath were polar bear. I know, sounds weird. Yeah, it's got his animal form, he's got his hybrid form, he's got his Goliath form. You can click on roll, which is irrelevant if you're not rolling it. It will pick a random thing out of the things you've selected, but that's not what we're using it for. What it's intended for is to create like random rollable tables. So like if I actually wanted to make a random roll table for you guys to roll on, I could do that. But that's not what I'm using it for. I'm using it to make a multi-sided token, which is far more interesting. If we didn't already have a token of this, you would click on this little token button right here, and it will create that token. See? A purely unedited token. Hit choose side. Change it to that. Right here where you see layer, right below you got multi-sided. You guys probably won't see advanced and layer and stuff like that as a player, but you will definitely see multi-sided. Random side will be just like if you were doing the roll button over here. You don't want to do that. You want to go to choose side. And then you got this little slider. So there's only 3 images. You just click either left, right, or center to get what you want. And then once you've got it, hit choose, boop, and it's just like that. Now this will be the unedited version of this token. Obviously, I've already long since made that as an actual full token. Nope, not that one. That's Doppelganger. Here's one of the other shifting tokens I've made. Because there's a few times where there was a Doppelganger. There was one where there was a possible event that could occur where a Doppelganger disguised as a militiaman tries to lure one of the players away and then tries to kill them and assume their identity. Or, in the Sunblight, there's one that looks like a 10-towner, because this is the image I use for 10-towners. Just regular ass hunters. Now, here's the same militiaman. And 10-towner. Use the same image so that they would not be suspicious that I used a different image than what would normally be if I described, oh, you see a town guard. Like, why has he got a different image than the image you usually use for town guards? That's suspicious, Spencer. I'm like, yes, it would be. But I didn't. And the only reason why I made the multi-sided token for the Doppelganger was so that when it's revealed, oh, really, it's actually a Doppelganger, I could just then swap to that creature. I could just swap to that image without having a different token for that. Because the stats of the shape changer didn't change for the Doppelganger. But, Goliath's hero. Goliath Werebear. This is the edited token. Because in its bear form, it's large. And I believe it's also large in its hybrid form, too. So I got all those hit points. since it's already got the thing connected. So another thing, what it doesn't do is because it doesn't know what it's supposed to be connected to. Let's go ahead and pull that unedited token out. Is you'll notice represents character none / generic token. For a multi-sided token, because I didn't pull the image off the sheet, I pulled it out of the rollable table. Got to come in here, and I got to go through the 5 million fucking things I've made, and find what it represents. And when I connect that to what it's supposed to represent, it will fill in its name. It will take its control settings, because right now it doesn't represent anybody. So I have to say who controls this token, if anyone. But once I find what it represents, then it will take that control setting box away and then make it to what is connected to the thing. It'll add its name in here. If I want it to do other stuff, I can, set it up to be, connect its wisdom or its armor class or whatnot, and do its dynamic gliding and whatnot. Like I said, this one is the already edited version of it that I edited. And, when I would have them go into that form, I would then shrink them. Because like many lycanthropes, werebears like to spend more time in their werebear form, their animal form, which is why I have it defaulted to be on this particular image when I pull that token out. As I pull up their sheet, go to edit. That is the version of the default token I have it set to. Like I said, obviously, when I pull it out, it's the multi-sided token, but it just defaults to that. So every time I pull it out, it's always the bear. Because unless you make it to where the token has specific links to its sheet, like it's a unique token, and you have it set to this represents this thing. This bar is specifically its hit points. It's not just some random numbers that are placed in there that aren't connected to anything on the sheet, stuff like that, like your tokens. Whatever version of the token existed when you set it as the default token, it keeps that version. And if I were to be like, well, I don't want it to default to the animal, I want it to default to this, I would have to go to its sheet and then set it to where this was its default rather than this being its default. So then it would drop this instead of this. Whereas with you guys, because of the way your tokens are designed and edited, yours, when you drag and drop it from your character sheet, it retains whatever editing that has been done to it because it's specifically connected to your character sheet. So edits that happened on the sheet or a token on a previous map stay on there, with the exception of these things. So like I had this little heart symbol on your token and we moved to another map, it wouldn't keep that symbol. It would keep any health damage you've taken. It would keep any changes to your armor class that you had made, but it wouldn't keep little like token symbols or anything like that on them. So yeah, so like I would come over here, got your image here, I would pull up my folder and I would just click and drag an image onto that, into there, and then hit save changes, and it would keep this. I would name each of them, Goliath form, hybrid form, animal form. I would name it polar werebear. This is an NPC, so the players do not roll off of this table. And by that I mean, like, they could not, one, they can't even see this. But also, they couldn't, if they had control of that token, they wouldn't be able to change what side it's on. Kiki, on the other hand, right here, this is Colleen's character. Yeah, I have that checked for her, so if she wanted to, she could right-click on her token and change from her winged version to her non-winged version or back and forth. I did the same thing with Ty's character token. If at any time you wanted to transform, or rather, well, because of the current rules that I have for you, you don't get to... any attempt to transform isn't always successful because you have to pass it. You have to pay us a saving throw to force the beast within to obey you. But you, the player, can change your own image without needing my permission to do so. You just right-click on it, go down to where it says multi-sided, and then click choose side, and then move your little slider around and whatnot. Is it game? There's a stolen breaker. Stormbreaker. I have a lot of maps for your game, so it's going to take it a half second.
Obviously.
Like right here, we got Captain Torg. Right here, we got multi-sided. Yeah, come on. Choose side. Well, now he's hybrid Torg. And now he's Pigman. Or just a pig. A boar. So, like, Ty, at any time, you can easily just, like, do this to your token if you wish. Because it's set to where the player can do so. I have it in here. Captain Torg. Yep, see. Players go over this table, and then this is why I had you send me that image so I could upload it into this table. Because while your token was in, while you had your image on your sheet and it was in your thing, I could not access that image from my end without having it sent to me.
Because
I could not extract your image off of your sheet and pull it into my files to then place onto this table. Which is why I'd had you send it to me in Discord so I could save it into my files and then upload it into this table. Along with the boar and wereboar hybrid that I had.
Because it's off of my image library. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not in mine, it's in yours. But yeah, as you guys can see, there's a lot of fucking shape changes in your game too. I'm not going to show you all of them. That would be breaking certain surprises. Let's see. No, it wasn't your map that I needed to do. No, it was the other map, that's right. But like, since we have Jimpan logged in here, I can take Jimpan's image, click, drag it, and I can make him look at this map instead. While I have myself look over at this map. Then I could still move this ribbon to here. Or to here. If we had a third person that was logged in, they would be seeing where this little ribbon was going. And then if I wanted Jimpan to come back to the Odiukes over here, bloop. If I wanted myself to come back over, bloop. Oh yeah. Fairly simple, fairly easy. Yeah, that's how I make, shifting tokens or multi-sided tokens, however way you wish to describe them. That's how I make maps. That's how I do dynamic lighting. It's all fairly simple. Most of it's not very complicated, really, at all. Let me check the map screen here. This is a map that I recently remade for them. Yeah, I haven't changed their scaling here. But you can turn grids on and off. You can change them from hexes to there's the horizontal hexes, there's vertical hexes, and there's squares. You can change it to either one of those. You can also change the actual size of those grids. So, which is what I had to do with this hex map and the hex map I have for you guys, is I had to make the actual grid smaller because otherwise the map would be like 200 by 200 hexes wide and long. And that's way too big of a fucking image. But one of the things I can do, I can change what each hex represents. There it is. Grid cell distance, each one is 5 feet. For them, I want it to be 1 mile. So I measured the size of these hexes against their actual scale on this map. Each of these hexes is about a mile based on the scale. So yours is not measured by a single mile because you guys travel much farther distance. Your hexes are much larger than theirs, but they travel by miles because that's how travel works in Ride of the Frost Maiden. So each of these hexes is a mile. Because that's how it shows travel speeds for if you're marching without snowshoes, with snowshoes, whether you have a dog sled or not. It goes like you can travel X number of miles per hour, etc. I think open tundra. If you have a dog sled that has like dogs or axe beaks, the game assumes you're using sled dogs to pull your dog sleds, which is why they're called dog sleds. I decided that axe beaks are more than capable of dragging a sled just as easily as a bunch of fucking dogs, which is why they use axe beaks instead. Or at least 2 of them uses axe beaks, because Howard cannot ride on top of a beast because he does not have the anatomy to do so. He's too fucking heavy. Even with the axe beak's strength, it cannot lift him. It can, however, drag him. Which is why he had to get a sled. Kiki got the sled because she wanted extra space to put their stuff in, to like carry their packs and their supplies and whatnot. Because Howard alone is pretty heavy, and even though dragging him is has a higher the encumbrance, the way encumbrance rules works when it comes to dragging, it's can drag him, but not by much more than just him. But they only got 2 sleds because they wanted Amon-Ra to have an axe beak that he mounted, so he doesn't drag a sled with his. He rides on his. Because they wanted him to be able to separate from the group more easily to go flanking and scout around them and stuff. Because that's just what they wanted to do. But they had to get at least 1 sled because Howard cannot ride on top of the axe beak. Not going to work. He crushed that poor little thing like a baby chicken. He'd probably also eat it afterwards, I'm sure. Because there are very few creatures that are strong enough and large enough for a turtle to ride upon. Plus, it's just awkward because their legs kind of sit at this weird angle with the turtle shell right around their body as well as around their crotch. So it's a little bit harder for them to actually sit and straddle on something just because their turtle shell gets in the way, and they're also like between 200 or 300 fucking pounds of weight. Which, Jim Pan, that's approximately 100 to 150 kilograms.
A turtle weighs about 450 pounds.
My apologies.
Average.
That's about 200 kilograms for those of you in the metric system. Give or take. That's not the exact number because it's a 2.2. It's 2.2 conversion to go from kilograms to pounds. You got to multiply by 2.2. So the shorthand that I've always done is, well, if it's 100 kilograms, double that to 200. That's about 200 pounds, and then maybe add an extra 10 to 15%. So 100 kilograms is approximately 220 to 30 pounds ish. Is it exact? No, but it gets you damn close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
It gets you close enough. So yeah, in metric, turtles are anywhere around like 150 to 250 kilograms. Like, these things are fucking heavy as hell. And I think that's it, gentlemen. If you got any, unless you guys got any questions.
Not off the top of my head. But if everyone had any questions, just drop them in the comments, and you could yell at us. And probably I'll be paying attention and what Shendu.
Yeah, I've dropped a comment on some of your videos from time to time. I think the last comment I made was I happened to be listening back to one of our sessions, and I heard somebody call Sariel it, and I was like, "Whoa, now!" When the comment section I went, Sariel is not an it. She uses the pronouns she and her because she is a mind flayer that retained her her concept of gender identity. There's no telling what the gender of her original host was. It could have been a man, but the concept of gender identity transferred over, and she decided to identify as a woman. Because mind flayers have no technical gender. They have no genitalia. They don't have a gender. Physically, they have no gender. They're genderless. But mentally, they can sometimes, during the ceremorphosis process, when they're going from their host body to their mind flayer body and become fully adult mind flayers, the concept, the mental understanding of gender identity, such as I am a man, or I am a woman, or I am something else. I'm not going to fucking get into that nonsense. But the concept of gender identity sometimes maintains itself during the transfer. And some mind flayers choose to identify with a specific gender. Most mind flayers do not. She is one of the ones that does. And she decided to be feminine. Which is also why when she mentally projects her telepathic thoughts to you guys, it is always with a feminine tone. Something I've mentioned before. Some mind flayers do a more androgynous tone, or some don't even use words. They use feelings or images. Because words are inefficient for a creature that lives in a hive colony of telepaths, that everyone is hive mind together, so everyone knows what everybody else is thinking at all times. No need to explain with words. You just know, because you're a hive mind. But, mind flayers that interact with people outside of their colonies, i.e. non-mind flayers that are not, used to understanding or dealing with things that are not psionic, telepathic, or are a part of a collective hive mind. They have to essentially do their version of dumbing it down. So they have to actually use words or images or feelings, things that would take longer to communicate to each other, which is why they don't. But because you guys don't understand how to communicate with them the proper way, as they would see it as, they have to dumb it down. But those that do actually speak with words, which is most of the ones that are talking to you, a non-mind flayer, most of them will just use a gender-neutral androgynous tone. But some put a little bit more inflection into this mental voice. Hers is feminine. And that, I remember that being one of the comments. I was just like, hey, just so you know, she's not an it. She has specific pronouns that she insists on using. I don't remember how long ago I even sent that.
I think it might have been me while I was introducing everyone to the High Captain.
I mean, I know who I sent it to. It was on your video on YouTube, comment section. I don't remember how long ago I put that there, but I remember I put that there. But I every once in a while I'll leave a comment on your videos just because I'm bored and something will happen and I'll be like, I should make a comment on this, and sometimes the comments are for all to see, not just for us. But I think that's everything. Unless you guys want to just spy on me as I fucking do some other stuff.
No, I'll just kill the recording. All right. Thank you for watching. Hopefully my CAT scan is not that bad next week, so we can resume our little pirate adventures as we look at a lizard.
Yeah, you know how hard it is to find fucking lizards for Underdark mounts, because in the Underdark they don't use horses. They use They use lizards. They're these like sticky-footed lizards that could scale up walls and ceilings. The way I imagine the lizards they ride in the Underdark are like geckos. It's really hard to find a fantasy gecko that was to my taste. When you type in, giant ass lizards or giant mounted lizards with saddles or whatnot, you get like reptilian lizards with like big clawed feet and armored scaled bodies, and it's like, no, I want literally like a gecko. I literally want like a giant ass gecko.